I am Charlie Wilmoth, joined by Raver Poker and Billy DGAF. And today we're going to be recapping the action from last night's $1 million game and looking forward to tomorrow's show here on Hustler Casino Live as we proceed through $1 million game week. Raver, how are we feeling today?
Good. It's annoying having Ryan's voice in your ear sometimes, you know? I had to turn that down. He's just, I mean, come on.
I got it in my ear right now, but it's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. That was a really fun day one. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to be comparing it to day one of the first $1 million game, day one of the second $1 million game. And this has to be the best start to a $1 million game we've ever had, right?
I think we could debate that. I don't know. I mean, I think that, well, I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more on the show, but I feel like in some respects, the first day of the $1 million game last year was pretty similar to this one. Texas Mike and Peter being among the biggest winners. But we had that 10 deuce bluff from Texas Mike in that first game last year. I guess.
But he had an 85% VPIP this year. So, I mean, you know.
If yesterday's show was lesser than the previous day one, it definitely was not Texas Mike's fault. Your thoughts, Billy?
Yeah, I think it's close. That 10 deuce bluff against, was it against Hook?
Yes.
Last year was amazing. Keating's bluff against both Jack and Peter was amazing as well. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that not work? I mean, I know we're going to talk about that later, but how did that not work?
So Charlie and I were talking about this earlier.
We have differing theories about why.
All right, we can get into that later.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we get too far with our thoughts on last night's action, let's look at some of the stats, and let's head to a VPIP scoreboard from last night here on the $1 million game. See that Texas Mike, as Raver just said, 85% VPIP, Pav 57%, Keating 56%, and then a little bit tighter, not to say tight, from the other players, 46 from Jack, around 40 for Steve and airball in a short time, and around 40 also for Eric and Peter. Keeping in mind, of course, that the stand-up game was not on, wasn't an anti-game format, so the VPIPs are naturally a little bit lower. I wouldn't say anybody was super tight last night, but it was not a wildly loose game either. And I think, one thing we sort of saw last night, Billy, that you and I discussed off camera was people trying a little bit.
Yeah, people were trying to win yesterday.
Yeah.
The thing that stands out on that graphic is the one at the top. 85%. Now, 85% in any game is insane. Doing it in the $1 million game makes it a little bit more insane. And doing it with Alan Keating on your direct left makes it just incredibly insane.
Yeah. And of course, one thing that stands out a little bit is Peter at the bottom of the leaderboard there with a 38% VPIP.
That number is slightly deflated, though, because, as you know, when he gets up from the table, those hands don't count until
Did he get up from the table yesterday?
Until it comes back around. So, maybe it's a 10% more, but there's easily 15 to 20 hands or more that got counted as a 0 out of 1 for him because he's just not there and they haven't marked him gone yet.
That's how that works? It doesn't, okay.
It's until it passes you again, until the blind passes you again. So each time you get up, you might miss 3 or 4 hands. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a topic we're going to get into throughout tonight's recap show. And let's look now at our cumulative winnings for the evening. So some more stats from last night's $1 million game. Texas Mike, in addition to being the highest VPIP, also won the most, 1.55 million. Peter at 700,000, Keating, Airball, and Eric winning as well, and then Steve, Pav, and Jack down at the bottom. So again, what an impressive performance from Texas Mike, not only playing 85% of hands, but winning the most as well. Billy, your thoughts?
It's pretty simple math, Charlie. You play the most hands, you win the most money.
How's that been working out for you, Billy?
Oh, I'm not Texas Mike. I've never even been to Texas. No, it is beyond impressive that he was both able to give all that action and win all that money. And as you were saying, there weren't that many huge pots that he was involved in. He didn't have like a aces against kings cooler. He was manufacturing quite a bit. He was running very, very well in many different ways, but he was manufacturing pots. He was getting folds when he needed to, and he was getting max value anytime he had it.
Yeah, I looked through my notes for the evening to figure out how to talk about Texas Mike's performance. We'll get into it in more detail later, but I kind of found myself thinking, because it felt like he was the star of the evening, and yet you look for big highlight hands to get into, and there certainly are some interesting pots that he played, but there weren't tons of crazy all-in situations where he was coolering somebody or something like that. It was mostly bluffs that were getting through and relatively medium to small-sized value hands that he was winning.
People forget that Texas Mike has the accolades of a real star in poker. He has 2 World Series bracelets. He has 5 circuit rings, right? So he has this strong base, and so he's playing wild, but he knows what he's doing. There's a method to the madness. He knows how to play small ball. He knows poker. It seems insane to say, but it's a strategy that works for him. He's relying on himself, getting in these post-flop situations, and he has the confidence to say, no matter what it is, I can do it. I can play small ball. I can get in there. I can make things work for me. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding.
I knew about the 2 World Series of Poker bracelets. I did not know about the 5 circuit rings. So that's 4. Okay, I'm being told it's 4 rings.
Oh, so it's 4 rings. All right, I'm sorry.
Either
4,
way, I mean,
sorry, Mike.
That means he's going to Tunica or whatever and grinding out like $400 events. Like this is someone who really loves poker. Yeah. So we'll talk a lot more about Texas Mike as we go on here tonight, but let's now discuss our satellite qualifier, Eric Lingren, who had a pretty good night. Ended up winning last night in the $1 million game, and doing so, I think we have to say, in fairly impressive fashion. So we'll get into that, but let's look first at some of the footage of Eric Lingren from last night.
All right, all in with the jack, 2 off, call. Here we go. Eric, a 2-to-1 favorite to win $1 million and be this year's MDG wildcard. It's over.
Good game.
It's over.
You're a battler, man.
There's your champion.
Scared the shit out of me.
Eric Lingren, back from the dead.
I kind of feel like Chris Moneymaker. So maybe Alan Keating is semi Farha, and we'll see what happens.
Steve betting 88,000. It's quite big, and Eric's call gets Mike to fold. So the ace gets out of the way. Eric now in the lead. Eric just wants to get the showdown.
142.
Steve goes 142,000.
Powerful bet.
I'm gonna put it in this time. I don't know what kind of read you're trying to get on me.
Just curious.
88 didn't have a spade.
Huge spot for Lingren. He makes the call. What a call from E-Dog. Lingren, a master of the talk. He's been playing live poker for a long, long time.
I'm fried, guys. It's been emotional. Thank you for the game. It's been fun.
It looks like Lingren calling it a night.
Congrats. Nicely done. Hey.
Props to him.
Thanks for the game.
Yeah.
Nice.
He battled for the last 8.5 hours. Turned 25,000 into $1 million yesterday. One more today.
Try to show my kids that, Dad still got it.
So Eric Lingren, certainly not the loosest player in last night's $1 million game, but he came in and did stuff as a $25K satellite qualifier. So for those who missed it, over the weekend, played a $25,000 satellite here at Hostler Casino, ran well in that, won the seat in the $1 million game, and then he would get to take home whatever he ended up with, whether that's above $1 million or below $1 million. So we thought maybe someone who won the satellite might knit it up a little bit during the $1 million game, and I think it's fair to say that Eric did not do that. He raised 10-7 offsuit in the cutoff. He limp called 10 big blinds at one point with 5-3 offsuit. He didn't leave immediately when his 8 hours were up, and in fact, as soon as his 8 hours were up, he said my 8 hours were up, and then called a raise with 7-3 offsuit. Won $283,000 for the evening. And despite some of those loose plays I just discussed, I would say he played winning poker throughout the day. And also, it was fun to see him show an old school live pros approach to table talk. him and Steve going back and forth throughout some of these hands was quite fun at all. Billy, in the pregame show yesterday, I thought maybe, I was saying maybe he's going to play a little bit tighter today, having $1 million in front of him. But you and Kieran were adamant that he would not, and I would say you guys were mostly right.
Yeah, he didn't play tight at all. He played fairly passively, especially pre-flop, and then he got sticky post-flop, but he was kind of doing that in the 25K satellite on Sunday. That's his style. Keep the pot small before the flop comes out, and then try and use your reads and everything else to make the correct decisions. And he did a good job of that yesterday. He got pushed around a bit by some of the more aggressive players, but he also made a really nice call down of Keating with just ace high with the ace-9 of diamonds, if you saw that hand.
Yeah, Billy, you were talking about how he is playing this small ball. I was listening to the stream when you were talking about he's playing small ball the way the old school guys used to play it. So as someone who's been around since
What are you saying, man?
the beginning of Texas Hold'em, right? What does that mean? How were they playing differently when he was a pro?
Well, poker has changed quite a bit. It used to be a lot easier to sustain win rates because there were just 2 blinds and the stacks were deep compared to the blinds. And the game has evolved over the years. There are more than 2 blinds, there's antes, and the stacks are relatively shorter. Also, at some point, someone came up with the training sites that encourage players to do a lot of re-raising pre-flop. So now you got a lot more money going in before a lot's been decided. And you saw that last night. You've seen it for years. And so that's the difference, is that so much money goes in before the flop comes out that variance is ramped up, and that's why people swing a lot more these days. And before you could play small ball, you can't really do that now because you're getting 3-bet all the time, and you need to 3-bet against wide opens and so on.
Yeah, so a lot of pretty good reads from Eric last night, in addition to the one you guys mentioned. There was that one we just saw in the highlight video where Eric was able to correctly call down against Steve after talking to him with second pair, after Steve bluffed big on the flop and then pretty big on the river as well. When Eric held King, Queen of Hearts. I know that Eric is, and I don't mean to harp on this, but since this is something that came up a bunch in the chat and elsewhere on the internet, I mean, Eric is someone who's had some well-publicized problems away from the table, but I mean, just as a player, I mean, I enjoyed watching him, and he was really quite a fun addition to the stream.
He was a great story, and he was doing things for the viewers yesterday. He was bringing up stories of poker legends. Doyle Brunson this, Chip Reese that, Phil Ivey one time. And he's doing that not for Alan Keating, who doesn't care because he stuck $1 million. He's doing that for the viewers who love that stuff. They eat it up. So I really appreciated that. And he was just a great story. Yeah, he had it all. He lost it all. And now here in 2 days, he's kind of run it back up. I thought it was a great storyline.
It's a relatable story, Dio. You
The first 2 parts are relatable. Yeah, but I just really appreciated that for the story of the $1 million game day one.
I'll tell you, when he was down, what was he down to? About 600,000 at one point, or
pretty quickly too.
Yeah, right, pretty quickly. And he got up from the table, and you know, he was distraught. He walked away. He's taking some deep breaths. I said, "Are you okay, man? Like, what's going on?" He's like, "Yeah, just need to chill out. Just need to, you know." And because the money mattered to him. Let's just be real, right? This guy, the money is going to make a big difference in his life compared to probably everyone else at the table. Winning or losing $1 million is not going to change probably a thing in their life.
It mattered more to him. It looked like it mattered to everyone at the table.
It did matter, but I mean, they all want to win. But I'm just saying that, you know, that was a moment he turned it from that point forward. He wins about 700,000, right? And so honestly, at the time, I was like, oh, she is boned. This is not good.
The first hand he played, he turned the absolute nuts. He turned a straight.
And ran into a flush, right?
And Pav bet his flush draw again on the turn, and he hit the diamond on the river, and then Pav bet a ton. And Eric's instinct, I think, was to fold, but then he's thinking, if I fold the best hand here early on in the $1 million game 1, the chat's going to give it to me. And I can't handle that, and you don't want the chat pros mad at you.
No.
They're a little bit upset if you've been looking on your phone.
Yeah.
They thought there was a game today. There was never a game scheduled today at all, right?
There was never a game scheduled today.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We want to give these guys a break. This is something we've learned from the last $1 million games. First of all, trying to run 4 $1 million games in a row, it's just not feasible. These guys, the nights are too long, the stresses are too much. Also, they need time to organize funds. Let's be honest, too. These guys, they're not coming here with more than $2.5 million. If they lose several buy-ins, now it takes a day or two to get money in. So yeah, we thought this would be a good day to kind of have a rest day, reset. But then we're going to be back Wednesday and Thursday.
And we're going to get to your questions at some point, for sure.
We will.
A lot of Q&A today.
We will. I know Ryan and team are up in the booth right now recording your questions. He's going to be feeding them to us a little later. So even if we're not responding to them right now, we're getting them. We'll get to them.
One more thing before we leave the topic of Eric Lingren behind. I don't know. I didn't see the chart that we usually display on this, but he may have been the fastest player at the table last night, which is not the most important thing in terms of who is the best player to have at the table, but it's not nothing either. It was really nice.
This is a Billy question. What do you think about that?
It's very important, and it speaks to him being an old school pro.
Yeah.
The pros want to play quickly because they want to see more hands. Live poker is not fast compared to online poker, so you gotta see another one. You gotta increase your sample size in order to achieve your expectation. And that's perhaps why he was playing quickly, but also he was just being good for the game all around. He like you said, he was making quick decisions, even if he could have spent more time and maybe got to a better one. And he was trying to get everyone talking, which the people want. They want the players talking, and they want the commentator to shut the hell up. And he was doing that. And then when he was telling a big story and a big hand, or an old story and a big hand would develop, he would pause, just like a pro would.
I would also like to say something, a message to Mr. Doug Polk, because I saw the video that he published a few hours ago. I don't know, did you guys see it?
I think I know.
And
yes,
I think that it was really, I'm going to say, unfair to air Eric's dirty laundry in the way that he did. And I know it's all about the clicks and the views, and he wants to get people to watch this. But look, here's a guy, yes, did he make mistakes previously in his life? Did he make some big bets that maybe were a little too big? Yes. Did he have trouble paying people back? Yes. What do? Do we just ban him from poker? Do we not give the guy another chance? He's a nice guy. He's a good guy. And I can't speak to those other events previous to what happened here, but it doesn't invalidate you. This happened. This is gambling. In the end, this is gambling. These things happen. I mean, I hate to say it, but these things happen, right? People, they get in trouble with money, this or that. Like, this is the world we're in, and I just think that we don't always need to air these guys' past history and dirty laundry.
I guess one reply to that would be, well, Eric's is quite public. I mean,
right? I guess, but that was the first thing in his new video, just talking about this. I don't know. It just.
I mean, maybe there would be a different sentiment around this if you were one of Eric's.
That's
predators.
fair. That's fair. But I'm just saying, do we always need to bring it up as the lead on someone? Oh, this guy won this. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, Doug Polk's playing the algorithm game. So.
Yeah.
It worked. You guys watched it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I was paying even more attention.
I think it's worth mentioning when someone is on screen playing for $1 million. Now, it's interesting in Eric's case, particularly because he only bought in for $25,000.
He only bought in for $25,000.
It feels a little bit different if he shows up at the casino with $3 million to play the $1 million game or something like that. That's not what happened. But I can certainly see why it's part of the story.
I guess. But anyways, on to the next thing. Let's move on to Texas Mike.
Yes, let's talk about Texas Mike. Let's
get me
see
off this.
Some highlights from Texas Mike last night in the $1 million game.
Notable players, most unstoppable, Texas Mike, that's for sure. Struggling Texas Mike, I don't know about that. Maniac Texas Mike, absolutely. VPIPs, Texas Mike at 80% with Keating on his direct left. Put some respect on that man's name.
Me too. How much behind 10?
After the 320?
Yeah.
Steve's got him covered.
1.227.
No skill falling.
Texas Mike sends it in.
Wow.
Does Steve fold? He does. Pure aggression in the 7 seat.
You're trying to remind him how much he had left. You sicko.
A guy like Texas Mike might want to push you out of the pot with air. He also might want to take you to value town with top pair, and he does. Texas Mike chops Peter down just a little bit in this $500,000 pot.
I mean, we were just talking about it. I'm all in.
Texas Mike is all in for over $1 million.
Texas Mike, a VPIP of 85%. Are you kidding? That is just absolutely insane. And Texas Mike up $1.55 million.
5% VPIP, 43% pre-flop raise last night. I think it's fair to say he ran hot. Although, as we discussed earlier, this was more about an accumulation of medium-sized pots, many of which he won with bluffs. He got a lot of folds when he needed them. We saw Steve 5-betting ace-king off and then folding to Mike's 6-bet jam with ace-king. And Mike profiting something like $280,000 in that pot. He also semi-bluffed both Eric and Peter off king-9 on a flop of 9-6-5 when he had 7-6. He 4-bet Pav with 10-3 suited to $185,000. Pav called with 10-9 suited. They both whiffed, which of course meant that Mike got to take it down with a C-bet. He 3-bet Eric's pocket queens with 9-7 suited, got an ace high board, and then went bet, check, overbet to win. So this was not about huge highlight hands for Mike. This was about small to medium pots and him winning them over and over. Raver, your thoughts?
Can you go back to the king-9 hand? Did I hear that one correctly? Say that again.
I didn't write down the exact action, but he semi-bluffed. It was early in the show. He semi-bluffed Eric and Peter. Both of them had king-9 on a flop of 9-6-5. Mike had a pair and a gut shot with 7-6 of clubs and was able to bluff.
And he got both of them to fold.
Yeah,
it was a great spot to run a semi-bluff. Mm-hmm. He was, I believe, the small blind and whatever. He checked on 9. What was it? What did you say the flop was?
9-6-5.
9-6-5, and someone bet, and I think Eric quickly called, and it just suggested pair and pair, and he had a nice backup plan in case they called. He had a pair and a gutter, and he put in the raise, and they both. This guy was worried about that guy, and that guy happened to be Eric Lingren, and he wasn't going to stack off with one pair, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, so a lot of bluffs for Mike last night. Also did a good job winning some medium-sized value hands. Won that 3-bet pot against Peter with king-queen against Peter's ace-jack when Mike turned a king on a jack-high board. Also won a 4-bet pot against Keating with aces against Keating's jacks. I believe that was late in the show. And at one point had ace-6 against Pav's ace-jack on an ace-high board and was able to win a nice pot there. So a mix of value and bluffs from Mike, but the through line was that he won most of the hands, most of the significant hands he played, and when you're VPIPing 85%, that's not usually easy to do.
You're folding 1 out of 8 hands.
One out of 6, 1 out of 8.
Yeah. So I mean, this is just, it's one for the record books. He stole the spotlight from Alan Keating. That is not easy to do. This was the Texas Mike show. Don't get it twisted. This was not Alan Keating being the star of the show like everyone says he's going to be. This was the Texas Mike show. He was the catalyst for action. Even if he's not finishing the pot out, he's the one making the raise, making them do weird things because he's in the hand. And can he repeat tonight or tomorrow? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if any. I mean, boy.
You know, there's something as a commentator. You notice the players who are most fun to commentate on are always the ones forcing other people to respond. You know, the ones who are doing something, like you said, and being like, what? You know, do something in response to this. Mike is a catalyst. He's not just a guy who's loose. He's a guy who drives action because he's the one pushing money into pots and forcing people into tough situations.
Yeah, I don't know why, but Alan Keating was just calling all of Mike's opens in position. I thought he might be isolating him a little bit more, especially with his good hands, but he just kept calling. I don't think he was fearing him. It was just a strategy he came up with. But yeah, Texas Mike kind of had them all on their heels all night long.
But the strategy is that he fears him. That's why he's doing it. No, I mean, come on. Okay, he might not be afraid of him, but he's thinking, I don't want to get in a re-raise fight with this guy, right? If it's Peter or someone else, maybe he raises instead. But I agree. He was overcalling and in weird spots where it's like I would think he would raise with the king queen, or you know, I found that odd as well. And you're right. I think it's an adjustment that he made for Texas Mike because he knows this guy just goes to the moon.
Sometimes we call instead of re-raising because we want to keep someone else in. I wonder if Keating was thinking that in many of those hands.
You might be right, actually.
So. Texas Mike, one of the big winners last night, and another one of the big winners was Peter, who some of the players and some people in the chat were frustrated with. And by the way, I see that we've got Doug Polk in the chat. Might be interesting to get into that here in a minute.
And Alan Keating is laughing at fear.
Okay. So, yeah, Peter winning a lot last night, but frustrating the chat and the other players by disappearing for long stretches. Let's take a look at a video related to Parking Lot Peter.
I'm wipe that up to see if that video is.
Oh, you live out that way? Or no? I'm sorry? You live in the city?
Peter just get an important call from overseas.
Market's open soon, right?
I happen to be his driver.
A couple hours from
so
now.
if he goes, I have to go.
Big trade news coming.
Peter on an extended break.
That number right, Mike?
All right.
For what? Lifetime earnings?
Bust out a cigar.
Yeah. I just
You deserve it.
Oh, yeah. You like it? He's got double what I have.
Now he's going to go outside, much to the
Money was worth
dismay
a lot less back then, too.
of his opponents. Peter up 1.18, Keating down that amount.
Can we get a call back to table one?
Just in case Peter ever decides to play a hand again. Or there's 1.18.
All right, Peter's back, guys. Be careful what you wish for.
Actually, pick up. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
This is what I was supposed to think.
Yeah, literally. I never thought for a second.
I didn't know he had to sign a contract. We got to get the new Peter contracts in place.
You big man.
It's my game now. I'll come back. I am the captain.
Yeah, exactly.
Today we're pulling no punches. Calling out Peter for not being at the game. Peter is up somewhere in the neighborhood of $750,000 right now.
Yeah, 200 you stop.
Peter's back, everybody.
Yeah, probably cool, yeah.
Peter is back.
All right, so before we get into it with Peter, we're going to look into the chat. We've got Doug Polk in the chat, and now we've got Alan Keating in the chat as well. Alan Keating just writing one word, which is fear. Billy, what do you think he's talking about?
Well, didn't he put a laughing emoji next to it?
He's making fun of me. You guys are trying to protect me. You don't have to anymore. He's saying that what I said, that he was afraid of Texas Mike, is absurd, and he's not afraid.
You're the Stephen A. Smith of this thing.
Okay, am I? Just dig myself holes every time I talk.
So, yeah, I don't think Alan ever fears anyone at the poker table.
He does not.
I think it was a choice he made for a different reason. Maybe he just wants to keep pots small against Texas Mike pre-flop. Maybe he's not afraid of a re-raise, but he just thinks it's better to keep the pot small.
A better word, better.
Or something a lot of us do, maybe there's someone down here we really want to get in the pot, and we know if we re-raise that guy, this guy's going to fold, but if we just call, this guy's going to come in, and this guy might come in with a squeeze, and that might be great for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are lots of non-fear related reasons to play
What's Doug
like that.
Polk saying in the chat?
No, he's just saying hi, but you mentioned his name and he appears.
I know that he promised the fans he would come out here and play the $1 Million Game day 2.
He did.
He promised
Is that
them.
true?
It was a public promise.
I think it might be true. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure who's getting trolled here.
I think he's busy with his Code Doug stuff. Code Doug.
But let's just say, when he played the $1 Million Game, he was the MVP.
100%.
They were playing scared. They weren't talking. He came here. He played like a businessman.
He did.
He was randomizing whether he was going to call. I was commentating, and he was the MVP. We would love to see him back.
He was a magnet for these big moments and these big pots, and it's because of the way he plays. It's the maximum. It's what you were saying.
Okay,
right?
I
In
just
those
got.
pots.
He didn't promise that. He said he's actually afraid of Peter.
Oh, he's afraid of Peter. Is that what they're? Okay.
That's what it is.
Got it.
Yeah.
Keating also says multi-way is the way. Get Peter in. More chances to get tricky without just re-raising pre-flop. So to your point, Billy, there's lots of good reasons to just call opens pre-flop that involve thinking about the other players at the table.
Yeah, Raver.
You guys are just playing 4D chess. I'm playing checkers.
So let's get into Parking Lot Peter.
Love the name.
Yeah, it's catchy. So a source of frustration throughout the evening that Peter kept disappearing after winning a bunch in the early going. Several players at the table commented on it, both at the table and in interviews with DJ Washburn and Raver. So the chat, Billy, was saying to ban Peter. There were dozens and dozens of entries in the chat saying ban Peter. Can you talk about why that's not going to happen?
Peter is one of the main attractions. He's someone you build a game around. When Ryan Feldman texts people, hey, you want to play? Who's playing? Peter? Okay, I'm in. Why? Because he will play the huge pot with a bad hand. You just need him at the table. You want him at the table. I don't know if his breaks are an attempt to get under the player's skin, but they are effective in doing that 100%.
Yeah. So he was probably away from the table for, I would guess, like an hour and a half or so at various points.
Yeah, he busted out a cigar after he won that big pot against Allen, and he busted out his lighter, and I thought it'd be fantastic if he just lit that thing up right here. None of the players would have said anything, I promise you that. They would have let him smoke that cigar right here. They want him in pots. And as Alan Keating said in the chat, maybe that's why he wasn't re-raising Texas Mike, who's opening 85% of hands or whatever. So Peter, he went outside to smoke a cigar, but he went out a bunch of other times, and I have no idea what he was doing out there.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, it's funny that you should bring that up, because I actually had the chance to catch up with Peter on one of his breaks. And exclusively, I'm going to bring it to you guys. What was Peter doing away from the table?
Okay. So that's what Peter was doing out in the parking lot. That's amazing.
Yeah, he was
Raver.
busy. He was busy.
You filmed that on your phone yesterday?
No, I brought the camera guy out. He had a red camera, so we filmed it in slow motion. We wanted to really capture the experience for you guys.
What do you guys think? Does he do it to irk his opponents? Or does he just do it?
I think it's what you said. I don't think he's doing it to irk his opponents. I think it irking his opponents a little bit is just kind of a side effect / bonus of what he's doing. He is really just doing what he wants. I mean, this is a man who does what he wants. When he wants to leave the table, he wants to leave the table. And the fact that it bothers them, it's not really something he's thinking about. He just, I want to go smoke my cigar. No one's going to stop me.
I don't know why Peter specifically did that. I know why people generally do that, which is because they want to enjoy the feeling of winning. You know, being up $1 million in the first 75 minutes or so of a game feels good, and you want to extend and savor that feeling. The cigar is probably part of that.
I know that feeling of smoking a cigarette in the parking lot when you're winning.
Yeah.
That is a good one.
I will say this about him. He is incredibly perceptive. He is a great reader of people. So I would lean towards he knows that it irks them and he doesn't care. Because there's no banning Peter. There's just Peter can play whenever he wants, and we hope he plays often and stays at the table for most of the session.
We were saying that Texas Mike was the catalyst for a lot of these big hands, but the more we're talking about it, the more I'm thinking maybe it's actually Peter. Maybe if Peter's not there, maybe Texas Mike's VPIP is a little lower. Maybe if Peter's not there, a lot of times Keating's not going to play these sneaky hands. Indirectly, a lot of the times, because they all want to play with Peter. Just what you said, that fact makes Peter the catalyst for these big moments.
So let's talk about Peter, the great reader of people, Billy, because there were a couple hands that we discussed off camera that you and I have differing theories about. One is the insane hero call that we all saw early in the show.
Unbelievable.
Between Peter and Keating, with Peter looking up Keating in a huge situation with essentially second pair and picking off a bluff. And we'll talk more about that hand when we talk about the night Keating had last night. But the other one is a more low-profile hand that happened at the very end of the show, where Nick Airball 3-bet with aces, and Peter cold-called with queens. Alan was in the hand as well. There was a jack-high board with a flush draw. Airball checked out of position, and I believe Peter bet.
Peter bet, Keating called.
And Alan, or excuse me, and an airball raised.
Huge.
And Peter just folded queens and overpair. And you think that that hand was part of Peter being a great reader of people?
Yeah, I think it was a great play. You said, how can it be a great play? I said, well, he has a read that Airball's not playing the way he was previous years, and he had a read in that hand that Airball is not going to do that. Maybe he'll do it against Peter heads up. Mm-hmm. He's not going to do it with Alan Keating sitting over there, who just put in a bunch with a bad hand. He's going to do that for value and value only.
You could be right, but my theory is a little bit different, which is that he makes the hero call early in the session because he's here to gamble. Then he's right about the hero call. He's up big early in the session. He wants to extend the.
Are you accusing Peter of locking it up? Are you about to circle around to him locking it up?
I feel like he gets presented with a hard spot at the end of the show, and with queens against aces. And it maybe it's just easier not to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what's happening. It's a tough spot, and you're up for the day, and it's easier to just let it go. So I think personally, I think that like Airball had just gotten to the table. He might not have been aware of all this, but it's probably a much better play when your opponent is stuck than when they're doing well. But I could be wrong. It could just be that Peter is a good reader of people. He got both of those decisions right.
He spends a lot of time looking at his opponents before making big decisions.
He does.
Not all players do that.
He does do that.
And he does stuff with his chips to try and get a little more information.
Pushing them forward just a little bit.
It's not
them around.
An angle shot, but it's on the spectrum of angle shot. Mm-hmm. It's legal. It's accepted. No one complains about it.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for it. He's trying to get a reaction out of you. And if you remember that, are we going to talk about the Keating hand? Is that okay? A little bit?
Yeah. Why don't we go to that now? So that's actually 2 down. Can we play that hand now? This
is the hand of the night.
No, it's Peter here. It's number 10 on our list. All right, they're going to load that up now. This hand started off the session. It was within the first hour. Let's go.
Keating tagging along with Queen 10 offsuit against queens and jacks. Peter has jacks. Jack has queens. Keating has air. Jack bets 35. Peter calls. And Keating gets creative with the 3%er. 200 large. Or 180 large. Most players would like to have some sort of draw when they do this. Not that man. He doesn't care. Not a fun spot for Jack. Table has gone silent, which is appropriate. In the pockets over 300K. Jack passes this test. All of these guys hate folding. Keating laughing at his lunacy. That's the, I just punted 180K, didn't I? Look. Plenty of draws available on this flop. 2 men with the overpairs. Hoping that's what their opponents have. Peter calls as well. 621K in the middle. As we head to the turn. Time to shut it down, Keating. Even if you can get Jack to fold. Peter's gonna look you up. Interesting card here. Keating has just over pot behind. How sick is the man in the 8th seat?
Come on.
All in. Play of the night thus far. Will it work? Jack's gone.
I believe you.
Peter studying his opponent. These two have a lot of history. But it wasn't a heads-up pot, which makes this stronger. He'd have to be crazy to be bluffing into 2 opponents. The game will be far out of the muck, regardless of what Peter does here. Hero call or fold. Give Peter credit for thinking this long. There's the call! Unbelievable! Won $5 million last year in the $1 Million Game. Wins over $1 million in this hand. With the call of the year.
Good call, Peter.
Peter, the end boss.
So DQ is in the chat calling for Peter to be called Upstuck Peter. Well, this is the hand that got him way up for the day, and he was up well over $1 million at one point. Raver, what's your take on this hand?
This is the kind of hand that when it happens at your poker table and you're not even in the hand, but you're just watching and you see this hand happen and the guy calls with that and you say, okay, let's play, right? This is a hand that happened in the first hour of the game and it completely set the mood for the, little did we know, we would be getting parking lot Peter for the next 6 or 7 hours. He wouldn't be there as much, but it's the kind of hand where as someone who's sitting at the table, you're thinking, this is the game. I want to be here.
I think there's several potential explanations, maybe all of them true to some degree or another. One is Billy's that Peter is a good reader of people. Another possibility is, again, that it's early in the show. He wants to gamble. He sort of wants to reestablish himself as the guy who is the king of the $1 Million Game after winning almost $5 million last year. And another element is the dynamic with Alan. And You know, when you have those moments at the table where someone folds to someone else and they say, respect, when they're folding to someone else, what I hear when someone says that is disrespect, right? Because what they're really saying is...
You don't have bluffs.
You can't be bluffing in this spot.
Yeah.
And I think that it's in a way, a gesture of respect from Peter to Alan that Peter is willing to call Alan this light. It's knowing that Alan can just have tons of bluffs in this spot that most players would not have.
He can, and he certainly wasn't giving much away after he went all in. I'm speaking of Alan. He was cool as a cucumber after bluffing off about $1 million in total. But after he raised the flop and got called in 2 spots, he was smiling, and maybe that's when Peter got the read that this guy is just goofing around here. This isn't a made hand or a big draw.
I like that a lot. I agree. I thought that was odd that he did that there, because if you just look at the poker itself, he played it exactly as he would have a flush draw, right? Every single street, he slowed it down on the turn, said, I'll see a free card to hit a diamond, right? He represented the exact hand that he's representing, and the diamond hits, and he bets. So there is obviously something outside of there, and that fact, I think you're right. I think that's the moment. Like, why is he laughing like that? He knows it's absurd, is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, only Peter knows. I wonder what Alan thinks, why he got called there.
I don't know.
I mean, I know they have tons of history, and of course he wants to get revenge. Alan made a filthy call on Peter recently in a giant pot, and so there could be the revenge factor. But I think there's at least a little bit of soul reading going on in that hand.
Well, people talk about leveling a lot in poker. Oh, that guy got leveled. Well, when you're talking about Alan Keating and Peter, the number of levels that they're working on, right? He knows that I know. He knows that I know. You know, it's the level of that. It would be so interesting to understand it from either of their perspectives, because it goes way beyond what any of us could understand. We haven't been there on those late nights when they're playing these $1 million pots again and again and again, and they know how many times Alan's bluffed. I mean, Peter's rebluffed. All these things that.
It would have been impressive heads up, but it wasn't heads up. It was 3 ways. And that makes it incredibly impressive by both players. When Alan went all in, my first thought was, there's less than 5 people in the world that could do this. That could have the heart to send it in when the worst card gets there for his opponents.
Yeah, and the other 4 of them are bad at poker.
I mean, maybe, like, I'm trying to think who else could go all in there.
Right. The question is, if let's just say that one of them did have a flush, right? Let's say it's Jack or Peter that has the flush draw. The diamond hits on the river. Are they checking that often? Do you think that's what he's thinking?
Well, I like to focus on reading of people quite a bit. Alan Keating is pretty good at it himself. I think he knew exactly what they had.
I agree.
He didn't think either of these dudes has a flush draw.
Right, because they would have bet it.
And he did something very cool. He just kind of knew they had overpairs on a flop that isn't fun for overpairs when you face a raise. So he put in the raise. And he was hoping to get it through there, or at least get it heads up there, right? And when he got called twice, he just kind of laughed, and I think he was done with it, right? And then a door was opened. The ace of diamonds on the river, and he quickly improvised and said, wait a second, my raise on the flop could have been a flush draw. I would have checked back on the turn against 2 players who are very sticky, and now I would go all in if I made my flush.
So you think he called an audible on the river?
Perhaps. We don't know.
He mentally said, okay, this hand's basically over, and then that ace comes, they check, and now his position has changed.
He's got an opportunity now.
And I don't know if it would be even wise for him to divulge that, either in an interview.
We'll never know.
Or on his channel.
Well, he is in the chat right now, and he's providing somewhat of an explanation. He says, coffee overdose made me nauseous, anxious. I think I gave tells, and he read me like a book.
Do you think you gave tells after you went all in, Alan? It looked like you were holding up pretty good over there. Or are you speaking of after you raised the flop and they both called?
Well,
if you're still in there.
Yeah, we'll give Alan some time to get to that if he wants to. Certainly doesn't have to. But let's talk more about Alan's night, and let's talk about the $2 million swing that Alan Keating had last night, going down a whole bunch at the very beginning and grinding it back. So let's see some video on that.
Keating gets creative with the 3%er. 200 large, or 180 large.
180.
We have about $500,000 in the middle now. With Peter still to act. Peter calls as well. 621K in the middle as we head to the turn. Another flush draw available now. Time to shut it down, Keating. Even if you can get Jack to fold, Peter's gonna look you up.
Come on.
All in. Play of the night thus far. Will it work? Batman just bluffed off his stack. Jack's gone.
I believe you.
Peter studying his opponent. These two have a lot of history. Looks like Keating might get it through. Thinking this long. There's the call. Unbelievable.
Keating, I fucking.
Won $5 million last year in the $1 Million game. Wins over $1 million in this hand. With the call of the year.
Good call, Peter.
Peter, the end boss. And Keating's gonna need chips.
Too mixed it up.
Playing a big one against Jack. He's gonna push Jack around here if he needs to. And he does not need to. He flops the nut flush against top pair in second nut flush draw. Here we go, Keating. Punish the kid.
See?
Bye.
Quick check raise to 80K. Jack calls.
80. Call.
Snap call of 200K.
I thought you said this guy took time.
Only when he knows he's gonna fold
no.
in. Here it is.
Oh my.
Send it in, Alan. 200 got snapped off on the turn.
Call. Call.
$1.46 million pot, and guess who's unstuck? The 8th seat, Alan Keating. The comeback is on.
So bad, David. Nice hand.
Thank you.
And Jack is now stuck a little bit.
You know, Keating, we obviously know, we've seen it tonight, we've seen it so many times on our show, on other shows. You know he's more than capable of pulling off the most audacious bluffs. You flop top pair with the Queen of Hearts. You can't go anywhere, and then the river just seals his fate.
Guess who's in the green? Alan Keating. Told you, he's up 31K. It feels like a lot more than that in the 8th seat.
Nice hand, Keating.
Thank you.
So Billy, you identified this Queen 10 offhand as a big turning point for Alan's evening, in which he was down a whole bunch and then suddenly started grinding his way back.
Yeah, so in the pregame show yesterday, I couldn't say enough how I thought Alan Keating was coming to kill. And He was in his way. It wasn't like he's not going to snipe. He's much smarter than that. He's going to give action. He's going to be social. But he was coming to put on a show like we've never seen from him, a pure talent show, if you will. And I'm very much a believer in momentum at the poker table and turning points. Big pots that if they go your way, now you've got it, and now the table is dead. And if it goes against you, it's a big setback for you. There's a psychological disadvantage that you're facing for a while. And we saw that. I thought his bluff was going to work, and I thought he was going to win $4 million last night. He just looked ready to play, and he was playing very well. And I think that shove is great. If there's anything he did wrong in the hand, it's kind of giving up after his flop raise got called. By laughing and smiling or whatever he did.
And checking, right? Checking the turn.
Checking the turn, I think, is mandatory there. Oh, you're saying that's giving up too?
Well, I mean, yes, it's certainly sending a signal that your hand is not that good at that point.
But if
right?
he was on a diamond draw, that's exactly how he would have played it.
Some people play diamond draws like that. But the point is, I was saying he was going to be our big winner the whole pregame show. And he's the first one to have to rebuy. He dusted off
If you take that hand out of the equation, though, he was the biggest winner, or close to it.
And what if Peter folds like everyone else on the planet would?
Yeah.
Then it's on. So it looked like it hit him pretty hard, that hand. And it's hard to see Alan Keating tilt or be disappointed, but I saw a glimpse of it last night, and he played a few more frustrating pots, and then he ordered some food and took a little break, came back and was patient. And he found little pots here and there that he could pick up. And then something started happening, and when it happens, it's going to be a problem for everyone else. And he started making the best hand and using his image to get paid in full. And he was able to stay strong at his low point, like Eric Lingren was early on, and stay patient. Let the tilt go away. Get back to your game. Get back in conversations. And you saw once he started making hands, it was over for everyone else.
He's one of those guys where if he actually has it, he's going to get paid because he has this image of being Alan Keating. But what was his VPIP last night overall?
56.
56, which is
low.
He
booked a hypnotherapy session.
Right. And actually, I talked to Alan Keating when he was on one of his breaks. Look, every poker player I know, when they're down $1 million, they're down this much. I mean, the world would be ending. You'd never know it when you talk to Alan Keating. I think this was part of the way through his swing back to the top.
Let's see some footage of that.
The Keating interview, Ryan. I'm here with the GOAT, Alan Keating. Alan, what is the vibe at the table right now?
It's getting serious. Everyone kind of had their own plan when they showed up, but the chips have moved around so much that the emotions are out now. So
you know what Mike Tyson says about that?
Yeah, I do. I do. Everyone has a plan
until they get punched in the face. So,
including me.
Tell me about that, though. You're down, and then you start winning. Now you're up. What's it like, the roller coaster?
I mean, I'll let you in on a secret. I booked a hypnotherapy session on the flight out here to try to convince myself to start folding pre-flop. And
have you done this before?
No.
So you did your first hypnotherapy on the way to this game?
Well, here's the deal. I thought I had to do something to get myself to start, folding some hands, and it isn't working.
It isn't working so far. Talk to me about Peter getting up from the table. Okay, I know for me, the amount of times that he's getting up from the table, it would start to get under my skin. How are you feeling about it?
I think it's beyond that. I don't think it's under people's skin necessarily. I think people are genuinely disappointed.
Do you think he's doing it more because they're disappointed? Do you think that is all a part of it? Or no, he's just doing his own thing? And
I hope not, because that shouldn't be how you try to get an advantage by upsetting people over decorum. But I think he's back now. So
yeah, well then I won't keep you from the table any longer. Any final thoughts? What's the plan going back there? Mum's the word. We don't say a thing.
I think it's my kind of game now. I think people are really battling psychologically and not just the cards.
Also, you are deep now, and do you think your edge increases when you get deep like this?
Do you think I have an edge anytime?
do you gain an edge?
I can tell you how much more I enjoy it deep like this.
And maybe that's what's most important after all.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, good luck. Thank you.
So, Raver, you caught Alan there right at the trough, right? And you can hear a sort of tentativeness in his voice.
I wouldn't call it tentative. I would call it meditative. It felt like he was in this kind of Zen state. He was relaxed. He was, at the same time, he's focused. Right before he did that interview with me, he was with his own video crew doing a different thing. Then he walks over, but it's at a deliberate, slow but fast pace, and I think he was just locked the fuck in. I think at that point, he's like a boxer.
Slow and fast at the same time?
Yeah, fast is slow, slow is quick, quick is slow, whatever it is.
All right.
He's like a boxer where he gets punched in the face and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, I'm in a fight, right? I'm in a fight right now. And it's that punch in the face that kind of wakes you up and it gets your adrenaline going. And for him, I think it helped him reach that state of mind, that flow state.
Billy, any thoughts on that before I talk about something slightly different?
It's interesting that he had that session to try and fold more, and I think it
sort of worked.
I think it's a good plan anyways. I think he won over all the fans by giving all the action and not caring and being the most fun player in the game every time he played. The story can't stay the same forever. And I know he started a YouTube channel, and his videos are great, and he's been playing tougher poker lately on his channel, other shows. And so that's why I predicted that he was coming here to do that yesterday. And I think it's more than okay. I think it's time. I think all those fans now want to see not only how much heart he has, they already know that, but how he can win the psychological battles, and they want to see the talent. They used to love Garrett, who played to kill every time. Alan will never do that. He's smoother than that, but he should kill sometimes, and $1 Million Game Week is the time, in my opinion.
His YouTube channel, by the way, is phenomenal. We have to shout it out because I think that this is the evolution of poker content. You watch his channel, he's taking vlogging and turning it into an art form. I would call his work art. The places of the interview, the way he's doing it. So if you haven't checked out his channel, check it out.
It's Who is Alan Keating, I believe.
Is that it?
I think so.
Okay.
So we talked about him dipping way down early in the session and things ultimately changing for him as he won pot after pot late in the session. He ends up winning $450,000 for the day. And you hate to highlight just one pot where something went wrong and think, well, if only that pot, the pot where I was unluckiest hadn't happened, it would have been really different. But there was one near miss that I think is really worth highlighting, where he had King 6 against Texas Mike's 10-6 on a board of 6-6-4.
Yes.
He raised the turn, offsuit 3 on the turn. Alan raised $260,000. Mike called, and then the river was a 3, which ended up resulting in a pot being chopped, and it was a $2 million pot with both players having 6s full of 3s. And you think, Billy, you predicted that he was going to win $6 million over the 3 days of the $1 Million Game, and we said, oh, come on, Billy, that's insane. But if he'd won that pot, he would have been on his way.
And he still might be on his way. We got 2 days left of the $1 Million Game You're referencing the hand where he had Texas Mike out-kicked, and they both had really strong hands, and then they chopped. The hand right before that was a cooler as well. I believe Texas Mike limped and called with ace-queen.
Oh, against ace-jack.
And Allen had ace-jack. He finally flopped top pair with a good kicker.
That was the hand before the other one?
The one right before it. And so he was just going for value the whole time against what he figured must have been a worse ace. And he said, I got it on the river, because he assumed there's no way Texas Mike is not betting a better hand than his, and he can't have ace-king or ace-queen, but then Mike showed him the ace-queen, and then it was almost like justice the next hand when Keating has the better kicker with trips, but they chopped.
Question is, if the river's a deuce in that hand instead, does he end up getting close to all the money there?
Maybe not a deuce in particular, but if it's like an offsuit 9 or something.
He gets a lot of it.
Okay, whatever. I just the quintessential
deuce makes
blank.
a straight.
Okay,
right.
yeah.
An offsuit 9 or something. Yes, I think he gets most or all the money. I think that Mike is going to be very prepared to play for a ton of money in that situation, as he should be.
Right, because 10-6 should be beating a lot of sixes, right?
Yeah, and when you're Texas Mike and you generally have the reputation of being willing to play huge pots all the time, it certainly makes sense to also do so when you have a really good hand.
Yeah, when you're the guy who bluffs a bunch, when you have a strong hand, you have to go for value. Otherwise, you're just punting away every time you bluff. That's the reason you do bluff, is so when you do flop trips,
you get money.
You get a ton of money from someone who will look you up late.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about a totally different game if that one particular river is a blank. We talked about Mike winning $1.5 million for the night. Keating also winning, but more modestly, plus 450K.
The positions would essentially swap.
Exactly, or maybe even a little bit more extreme than that. This could have been Keating's night in a way, at least in terms of the standings at the end. Any further thoughts on the night Keating had?
I mean, it's just, for anyone who has spent time with him, he's so mysterious, and so he moves at, like I was mentioning, the quick and slow and quick. It's because he's just in this flow state, this moment. You can tell that he is just locked in all the time. Even when he's down there, everything is intentional. He's thinking about the game. He's discussing it with his own mind. He's inside of his head, he's inside of their heads, and everything he's doing is just very intentional. You know, he's doing everything for a reason.
He's not clicking buttons.
He's
like
not clicking
Charlie.
buttons. I like Charlie. He's not clicking
Look
buttons. That is
mouth.
true. And you know, it's when Peter gets up from the table, you know, he just wants to get up from the table. When Keating gets up from the table, he's processing things. He needs a moment.
There's a reason for everything.
There's a reason for everything.
Yeah, and not to talk about too many hands he played, but there was a very interesting one against Eric Lingren later on in the session. And Eric Lingren limped, Allen raised, and Eric, or maybe Allen didn't raise, maybe someone else did, I don't know, but Eric limp re-raised to a huge amount. And of course we have RFID and graphics, but we didn't need it for Eric's hand. Everyone knew he had aces. Allen certainly knew he had aces, and he called a bunch with Jack 6 offsuit. Why? Does he think I might flop 2 pair or trips? Nah, not really. He thinks this guy's got a big pair, and I can win on a bunch of boards that are scary against a big pair because this guy satellited in the night before, and the money means more to him than everyone else. And so this guy's floating pre-flop with Jack 6 offsuit against obvious aces. That's taking it to another level.
Do you think he's correct about that, by the way? That do you think it's worth it for Alan to call the hundreds? I believe it was $160,000 with Jack 6 off in order to try to outmaneuver someone who has aces?
No, but when you're the talented, loose, aggressive player, you know you're giving away EV sometimes. But it could happen that he could bluff him off. It could happen that he could make a better hand than aces. But what's the worst that can happen? Okay, so now Eric has another 200K and he's deeper, and now we can just attack him more. So you said Alan Keating gets in people's heads. You know who else gets in people's heads? Steve.
Yes.
Steve.
So fun night for Steve, the min bet king. Let's see some video on his night last night.
Is Mike gonna bet 5K with Jack 9? Steve calls with the ace queen.
Hopefully chop it up. Check.
We're not chopping. You win.
Ace, queen, cold.
Should I raise?
On pre-flop. You're so sneaky.
Oh, I did raise pre-flop.
You did?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I missed it.
Steve calls with the ace queen.
My bad.
And then I got called and nobody re-raised. So what am I going to do?
I'm sorry. My bad.
You're just sharing with them your observations so they know next time min raise is a trap.
I tried.
I must fold. 4,000. Already knows now.
Yeah.
Texas Mike opens the button to 8,000. King 6 offsuit.
Multi-table.
There they go.
Yeah.
Steve makes it
You've been
16K
there, right?
with ace
Got
king
2 V2s going
offsuit.
on.
1,000.
That's a raise.
Min bet.
How do you do it?
30.
Oh, you have the 9.
Do I need the 9?
Yes.
Four flush.
What?
I hate giving you chips. How much is it? 30?
30.
I need the 9?
You needed it. Can you have queens here?
Yeah. Okay. Can you? I don't.
Wow. Nine could have saved me. I was trapping the turn. Nice hand.
So we do have Alan Keating in the chat, and Alan sort of agrees or confirms Billy's theory that he says, I was going to bluff every flop that would scare Eric Lindgren. I know it's not smart, but it seemed like something I'd enjoy.
Which is really cool, because even on a night where Alan's trying to win, he's always thinking bigger than the game. Like, you get one life. Sure, winning money's cool in this game, but he also wants to enjoy himself. So he knows it's not plus EV to call that huge limp re-raise with Jack 6 offsuit against a guy who obviously has aces. But it is plus EV for him because he's going to enjoy trying to bluff him off that overpair, and that's taking it to another level. So we just wanted to circle back real quick, and now let's talk about Steve, Raver. This is your buddy.
I like Steve. Scuba Steve, my man Steve. He is, if we're talking about players that are catalysts for all these big pots, that's important to the game, but also what's important is Steve being a catalyst for interesting social situations, right? He's saying weird things at weird times, and it's off-putting to different players who haven't experienced this before. You kind of have to get on Steve's level. You have to work with him. You have to understand that he's going to ask you strange questions. He's going to make you, I mean, he is fantastic for the experience for the viewer because he's talking, he's making them answer these questions, and it's just, I love Steve.
Yeah, let's watch a highlight of Steve's table talk, and then Billy, I know you have a take on this. And let's see some table talk from Steve last night in the $1 Million Game.
I'm in a flip against the computer hand.
The second pair.
How could I bet into that?
Gut shot straight draw. Mike checks.
I'm literally in the middle of the fucking hand, and you're telling
Or he
everybody
sets up traps really well.
Do you have a big hand?
Gotta believe
We're not going to talk about it?
Jack is going in the muck as well.
Maybe we're going to talk about it, or maybe you have a big hand.
Action flop, top pair plus flush draw against the overpair.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You want to see one card? I don't want you to leave, so just pick one. I might not show it. Can't show you that one. Can't do it.
Why should I fold it? This one?
Can't fold.
Well,
How can I?
Why can't I see? Check line.
What do you have?
What?
Steve just can't make a hand. Does Jack know he's... Oh, wow.
All right, that's 4.
That's a good slow roll. He had me tricked.
Whoever wins the next pot gets this bottle of Screaming Eagle.
Really?
Not counting this pot, because I'm going to win this pot, so it's the next one. That's why I haven't been winning, because I didn't give anything away before I fucking got here. I got you.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm going to win the hand.
1,000.
There
What
it
are you
is.
doing? I'm
The
not joking.
min bet
50,000.
works
Both?
like a charm. Another min bet. 168K pot manufactured by the Mind Games master.
All right. So we do have the bottle of Screaming Eagle. It's still here. And apparently this is a several $1,000 bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's what Nathan Ramirez in production just told us. $3,000 bottle
Get
of
some
wine.
wine glasses.
I think Eric Lingren won that pot. Maybe he doesn't drink. So I think we find the next closest person who does enjoy a drink
Oh
here
no,
and there.
he would want us to enjoy it.
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, I don't drink too often, but this looks like a nice bottle of wine.
Let's see what chat thinks. So chat, type 1 in chat if you think we should open the bottle now and drink it. Type 2 if we should.
No, we're not opening it right now.
No, this is a
Eric
democracy. We
Lindgren
have
wants
to
it,
let them choose. The chat will choose. 1 if we should open the wine bottle and drink it now. 2.
No, we're not doing it.
Right, we can't do that. But Billy, I know that you have you have some.
We're selling this for a buy-in,
the
Raver.
people are speaking. I see a lot of 1s in chat. That's all I'm saying.
We gotta sell this to some rich guy out there on the casino floor, and then
Look at that.
we each
Look at
have a
the chat.
buy-in for the 5-5-10, Charlie.
Yeah, that's true. Billy, I know you have some thoughts on Steve's table talk last night and in general.
I was unfamiliar with Steve coming into this. You know, I did a little homework, not as much as you have, Charlie.
Steve, of course, was on the $1 Million Game last year, but
Right.
you weren't here, right?
Yeah. I was locked up. So it was interesting to see right away. First of all, he was the most comfortable player at the table. He immediately gave off smartest guy in the room vibes, most successful guy in the room. And if you're giving away a $3,000 bottle of wine to whoever wins the next pot, that speaks to that a little bit.
It does.
So early on, he was getting his opponents to do what he wanted. And another good reader of people in general, when things are going his way, I think is Steve. And not only is he good at gathering the information that's presented and using it to his advantage, he's good at getting more information with the things he says and his min bets. And it's going to work against many players, but to the really tough players, it might backfire. And you're going to see that later against Nick Airball, where he bet 1,000 and Nick Airball made it 100,000. And now Steve's thinking, did I induce this? And Airball's probably thinking, you think you induced this? But I got top pair, buddy, and I got you out kicked, and I'm going to win the max right here. But early on, it was really working well. He got Texas Mike to call with a hand that could never be good and would have been folded otherwise. And I just found him incredibly intriguing. You said he was a former lawyer, and that made a lot of sense when you told me that.
Very high-powered lawyer at one point, and then became a judge. But yeah, there's a fine line between creating confusing situations for your table talk and relying on your ability to outmaneuver your opponent in navigating them, and then also just confusing yourself potentially.
Yeah, he did that a little bit. He was there to battle at the beginning, and then something just kind of happened where he just didn't care as much. and he was just saying what his hand was in spots.
Yeah.
And it was less gamesmanship than just like, I don't really care right now. I'll just say something because it's funny.
I sensed that as well. I know exactly what you're talking about. What is he doing?
He had it dialed up to 10,
checked out.
and then he turned it down, and we all have days like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably just pretty difficult to maintain this sort of psychological gamesmanship over 6 hours, 7 hours.
He had won 12 of 14 sessions on Hustler Casino Live going in.
Right.
He's now 12 of 15, which is phenomenal. So he was maybe due for an off night.
Yeah, so a bunch of situations that did not work out well for Texas Mike last night. We saw the King Jack of Diamonds versus Aces hand. For Steve, yeah, against Jack, right? And then he snap folded Ace King offsuit to Texas Mike in facing a 6-bet all in and
Let's
lost.
talk about that hand.
They had the same hand, correct?
Yeah, they both had Ace King.
Mm-hmm.
That hand's insane in its own way. Steve knows his image is a guy who's, when he 5-bets to 300 and whatever thousand, or around 300,000, no one's shoving with anything but aces.
He's never doing that with jacks.
No.
He's never doing that with, maybe sometimes with queens.
So when Texas Mike shoves over $1 million, you said you got to call with the Ace King.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wasn't so sure that he should call there or that he should 5-bet. That's just a fascinating hand to me because how many big blinds are you putting in with Ace King there? I mean, Texas Mike didn't care, but how many?
Well, that's the whole thing. Texas Mike doesn't care.
Right.
I think.
So does that make you more inclined to call? I mean, we saw that hand in last year's $1 million game between Keating and Texas Mike. It played similarly with 10s against Ace Queen. And they ended up playing for all the money, a $2 million pot.
Right.
10s versus Ace Queen all in pre.
Mm-hmm.
This pot would have been bigger.
Yeah.
They were probably 600 big blinds deep. And I think if you're putting in 600 big blinds with Ace King offsuit and you have a tight image, a conservative image, conservative is better than tight because he's not tight, but he is more conservative than the other players. That's generally a mistake. Now, if you're the crazy guy, Texas Mike, it's much less of a mistake. So I found that hand very interesting. And here's the beauty of all of it. How much did he lose last night, Steve? 1 million, right?
About $1 million? A little less.
931,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and how big was the pot that was essentially a flip where they're all in, he had top pair and a flush draw against the aces?
I believe that was about $1 million.
Close.
I don't have it in front of me.
I think if he wins that flip, not only does he play better the rest of the way, but he just the math of it is he wins.
And let's also give credit where credit is due. In his situation, adding on 1.5 million was a bold move, and it sent a message to the table, and not a lot of players, I don't even think Keating would have necessarily done that there, right? He might have just played it down and bought in for $1 million.
You wonder what Keating's rebuy add-on philosophy is. It might be that he knows if he adds on too much, it'll kill the action. People will be too scared of him. I don't know. If Steve does it, it is bold, and it's awesome also that when the pot's $1 million and he's flipping, he just says one time, let's just run it once, and then I'll say something funny either way, and he's trolling Jack, who has the best hand, and after trying to get Jack to fold by showing him he could have top set, he showed him the Jack of Diamonds.
Right.
Jack should never fold there as big as that pot was pre-flop, but he was just very chill and funny throughout that hand, and it's $1 million flip.
Dylan Flashner in the chat says, Steve is far beyond when it comes to table talk. Very scary opponent, never know where he's at. One big highlight for Steve last night was a family pot in which Texas Mike had Jack-6 offsuit, Steve had Queen-Jack offsuit, and Jack had King-10 of hearts. That's a confusing sentence, but 3 ways to a flop, which came Jack-Jack-9 with 2 hearts. Steve bet 17,000 into 16,000. Jack called and Mike called. Turn was the 3 of diamonds, creating a backdoor diamond draw. Steve bet 60,000 into 67,000. They both called again. So we've got a trips versus straight flush draw situation on the flop and turn, and then 247,000 in the pot heading to the river, which is an offsuit queen. So Steve now has a full house. Mike has trips, and Jack makes a straight on the river with his king 10. Steve bets 320,000, overbetting the pot into 247,000. Jack is next to act and starts murmuring about queen jack, queen jack, queen jack, but calls, and then Mike overcalls. So a $1.2 million pot, and Steve profits $808,000 in the hand. Not a great night for him overall, results-wise, but that was one big hand that went his way.
And a lot of people talked about Texas Mike's overcall there, which was clearly his worst play of the night.
That was confusing. Billy, why?
No one's perfect, man. Like, he played beautifully all night, but he's going to have some blunders, and that was a blunder. If you ask him today, I'm sure he'll say, yeah, that was terrible. I don't know what I was doing.
But did he have a plan?
What do you mean?
When he makes when he calls there?
A plan? Overcalling the river?
Oh, it was on the river. I thought it was on the turn. Okay, got it.
No, he didn't have a plan. He didn't see that decision point as clearly as he saw the other ones, and that happens at the poker table. There's fatigue, there's distraction, there's boredom.
It does, and as someone who's played on stream, and I know you have a lot as well, these emotions, under these bright lights, they get exaggerated, right? When you're feeling, maybe if you were in your basement playing with your buddies at home and you mess up in a hand, it's no big deal, right? And then if you're playing on the casino floor, maybe it's a little bigger of a deal. And then if you're playing on a stream show, it's even bigger of a deal because the tension, you can feel it in the air, and it can be hard to stay level-headed for the whole time. It's amazing that Texas Mike is able to do it as much as he does, playing 85% of hands, but he's human.
Yeah.
Let's talk now about some of the other guys who played on the show last night. We had Jack making his debut in the $1 Million game, wore his $2 million Richard Mille watch. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not a
Not like that.
Yeah, probably not. Not a great night for Jack in terms of the results. He won a big pot early with the aces against Steve's King Jack of Diamonds, but he was short throughout a lot of the night and lost the last of his initial buy-in with pocket threes against Alan Keating's pocket sixes when Alan Keating flopped the boat on 7-7-6 and the turn came a 5. He came back with an additional $500,000. You have to buy in for $1 million to start the night, but if you have to rebuy, you can rebuy for as little as $500,000, and put that on the table. But he eventually lost a flip to Alan Keating and departing. Guys, any thoughts on Jack's debut here in the $1 Million game?
Well, it's pretty funny that you see it at your local casino. The min buy-in is
it's $100, right?
It's $500, but you get one short buy if you bust, and they give you a short buy
it's like
button, which is super humiliating. And we should have given one to Jack when he only bought back in for $500K.
Tawny just tosses him
Toss up a short buy button. So sorry, that just stood out to me when you were talking about that. But Jack showed some chops early on. He made a very nice 4-bet against Pav, who we haven't talked about much.
We'll get to him in a second. Yeah.
Okay, Pav was just a class act.
He was.
And he was playing very well until something bad happened to him. We'll talk about that. But early on, Pav was the most aggressive player, 3-betting relentlessly. And he 3-bet, I think, with ace-3 offsuit, and it's early. The players are supposed to be nervous. This kid, Jack, is the youngest guy at the table. And he has King 5 suited, and he just calmly puts in a 4-bet. And Pav folded and said, I almost went all in. And he said, good, I wish you would, or whatever. And it was clear right away that he was not scared money at all, and he was seasoned beyond his years.
Yeah, maybe it's that he is young, and when you are, he's in his mid-20s, yeah?
I don't know.
I think he is, and I think when you're that young, you don't know to be afraid yet. You haven't experienced these things. It's almost, and I think that's why the chat find him so entertaining and fun and relatable, is he plays in this way that's very pure, where he's just doing it, right? You can tell he hasn't been burdened by the worries of a lot of the other experiences that these guys have had.
He's young enough to spend a decent amount of time pretending to think when he knows he's going to fold. He did that several times. It was irking me up in the commentator's booth. The players didn't know that he didn't have a decision, probably, in many of them.
Right.
But he did not have a decision. And he would just like think it over and look his man over. And if you're Pav or whoever it is, you're thinking, okay, this guy might call. But this guy like is playing the board or whatever. He just took his time. So he did some really nice things. That was the only thing that was irking about him.
Nothing tilts Billy more than people tanking on trivial call or trivial action in poker, right?
You do it, Raver.
I know. Raver, we'll move.
So Jimmy bluffing in the chat saying, Charlie, it's pronounced Mill, like Meek Mill. Okay, so Richard Mill, his $2 million Richard Mill watch. Billy, I think the pot you were alluding to perhaps against Pav, between Jack and Pav, was when Pav had kings in a 3-bet pot. Is that the one you mean?
So when things went wrong for Pav?
Yeah, so Jack calls a 3-bet out of position with Jack 8 offsuit. Then the flop, Pav has kings. Then Jack check calls on a queen 10-9 flop. So Jack flops the second nuts and check calls. The turn is the king of spades, creating a backdoor spade draw. So Pav turns a set of kings and it goes check, check. Then the river is a 5 of spades, completing backdoor spades. And then Jack checks with his straight, which I would think should very probably be the best hand in that situation. Pav does value bet his set of kings and Jack snap calls. But that seemed like an interesting pot between the two of them, both in terms of it being somewhat of a cooler and also in terms of Jack's decision to check and call the river with a hand that was very likely to be good.
A few curious decisions in that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pav is relentless with the 3 bets, and Pav was both chill and focused to start off. And he finally got a good hand.
Off to the side so we don't spill it.
I'm told we're supposed to let it air it out for an hour before we drink it.
I'm a little bit scared of it being on the table.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
Where were we? Did you open that bottle of wine?
I'm letting it air out.
The Jack 8 versus Kings and Jack's decision on the river.
Right. So, Pav's VPIP was second highest, right, overall?
Yeah, 58.
Yeah.
Go back and look at his card distribution. He wasn't getting any hands to open. If you're using a chart, his VPIP is close to 0. But he doesn't use a chart. He's Pav. And he's opening King 8 offsuit, under the gun. He was fearless, and he was aggressive, not only with his opens, but his 3 bets. And he finally got kings, and he got this kid to call out of position with Jack 8 offsuit. And I was surprised to see the call pre-flop.
Yeah.
Like, who calls with Jack 8 offsuit to a 3-bet out of position?
Right. And
Jack does.
Right. And Pav isn't rewarded for it. Gives all this action and then gets this amazing spot where he's getting action with kings against Jack 8 offsuit and
so it comes queen 10-9. He flops the miracle straight. It's not the nuts, but he's not really concerned that Pav has the nuts.
Right.
And he checks and calls, and it looks worse than it is because the turn is a scare card. It puts a one-liner out there. It's the king that gives Pav top set and anyone with the jack.
Right. If it's an offsuit 4, we're having a totally different conversation.
Then it works beautifully. Then if it's an offsuit 4, he checks, Pav bets big again, and now he can check raise and try and get the rest of the money in. So he ran kind of bad after running incredibly good. He ran incredibly good on the flop. He kind of ran bad on the turn, that it was a scare card, and Pav picked up equity. Now he could pair the board to make a boat. He didn't, and then the backdoor flush came in, and I think Jack was just happy to check and call and not get stacked by a miracle backdoor flush.
Sure. So, as far as Pav's night was concerned, he made a couple of moves that didn't work out. He 2x pot overbet the river with 7-5 on a board of ace-9, 6-4 king against Texas Mike, and got called because Mike had backed into 2-pair with king 4. He got flush over flushed by Keating when Pav had 6-3 of hearts. He was able to make a good fold. It was on a paired board, so Pav, I believe, bet folded the river, but that cost him a bunch. He became relatively short after that and then won a flip against Keating, but then he lost his last 316K, getting it in pre-flop, I believe, with king 10 off against Keating's ace 10 suited. left about 7.5 hours in. And talking about Jack and Pav, guys, I mean, clearly players like Keating, players like Texas Mike get a lot of the attention. But honestly, I mean, we've seen Pav play No Limit Hold'em on stream now twice. We've seen Jack 6 or 7 times. I think these guys have the ability to become stars if presented with like real, you know what I mean? Like they're all stars. They play in the $1 million game, but to become the guys that we're talking about at the start of the show after a night of the $1 million game, and they just haven't really had those situations aligned.
Well, what is the number one thing that these guys at this table have in common?
They all have money.
They all have money, right? That's the one thing they all have in common. They have the money to play in the $1 million game. Now that just breeds a group of kind of just eccentric dudes. They not only have to have the money, but they want to play in a $1 million buy-in game. This is, you know, a 0.01% of the population type of activity, and the kinds of people that it brings. It's a very unique poker game. I think that's part of what actually makes the game so interesting, because if you go down in order of magnitude, it's 100K buy-in. The amount of people that can play, it probably goes up by 100, right? And the fact that it's this slim group of people. There's an
exponential effect.
Right, oh, absolutely. It's exponential as you go up in stakes. And what you get is these guys are interesting because, first of all, they have this money and they live a very interesting life and they're willing to gamble it. And I think that's part of what makes the $1 million game so special.
Yeah, I think you talk about these guys becoming stars. I don't think Pav will ever become a star. He's just
maybe he doesn't want that.
He's too well adjusted.
Yeah.
He's too chill. He's too courteous. He's a great dude.
Yeah, nice guy who dresses really well
and handles the losses well. Jack came in as a villain for a hand he played against the HCL darling Jasper, and he did some things that are tilting. He was posturing before folding. He was saying some slightly inappropriate things after people lost big pots. But then he kept playing, and he got stacked by Keating, and he said nice hand, and he rebought for that little itty-bitty short buy of $500,000, and he showed his good side, and he was gracious in defeat. So I think if anyone can become a star out of those two, it's Jack.
Okay, yeah, I didn't feel Jack came off as a villain in any way last night. We talked about that a little bit in the pregame show, but I mean, just watching the show.
Nicest guy.
Seemed like a good
so
dude.
Genuine. You know,
Jack?
When you talk to people, and it was my first time meeting him and talking to him, and he just gives this level of attention that I found really interesting. He looks me right in the eyes, and he wants to know about what I do and this and that, and I like Jack.
Yeah, so maybe the hand with Jasper that we discussed is some sort of misunderstanding.
By the way, I saw Jasper coming in. He's over at Baccarat playing like 10K rips.
No, he's not.
He is.
No, he isn't. I talked to him. He said he was joking with you. Serious.
Okay, he did say. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he isn't. He said he was joking. No,
all right. That's good to know.
He's having a meeting or playing some poker.
Okay, well, so we did have one very late addition to the $1 million game last night, and that was Nick Airball coming in the middle of the night. A lot of people might have missed it because they were already asleep and because the game ended soon after, but we do have a couple of highlights. They happened right in a very, very short span of time, probably a single-digit number of hands, but Airball definitely made himself into a player in last night's game. Let's see some highlights from that.
Family, you are in for a treat. We have someone coming off the bench. Airball is here. Now this is familiar territory because you did this last year where you came in late. What's your game plan? What are you thinking?
I'm just excited to play a little bit and get a couple hours in before Wednesday, so excited to mix it up. The game looks fun and see what happens.
Yeah, so you've been watching the stream a little bit. You said it looks fun. Do you think that is going to be good coming in late as a new guy, or do you think that's going to be maybe not as...
I have no idea. I'm just excited to see what happens.
All right. Well, the fans are certainly excited to see.
Awesome.
Good luck to you, Airball.
Thanks, buddy.
Crush.
All right. I can play.
DJ, thank you very much. Airball entering the ring.
You
heard Airball say,
you can tell Peter
just warming up for Wednesday. So Airball raises, Keating calls, Steve calls, Peter calls, Mike calls. We're going to see a jack high flop. Steve hits the jack.
15.
Airball with the better
How's this
jack.
gonna work?
Steve in pretty bad shape here.
Thank God those weren't purple. That would have sucked.
You were a proper alien, huh?
Pot control.
Airball.
You just have to show up and run over the fucking table. I can't remember what you did pre-flop. Call. What did you do pre-flop? Do you remember?
Airball goes 45,000. Steve calls.
1,000.
River pairs the board. Airball's king still plays. Steve bets 1,000.
I didn't have a very good hand.
100.
You raised to 100.
And Airball makes it 100.
How do you show up and play this good right off the fucking bat?
Not really.
Call.
And Steve makes the call. Wow, $347,000 pot right out of the gate. The king of LA, Airball, wins a nice pot, and he is very quickly up almost $200,000. I want to join a poker game 8 hours into it. Play one hand and win 200K. Sign me up for that. Portable poker table.
60.
You raised to 60.
Good luck to all of you. Oh my, how does this happen? Aces versus queens? Airball just got here. Peter entering this hand up about $700,000. And Keating's going to gamble too. He's in there. $182,000 in the pot. Airball with aces. Jack high flop, 2 clubs out there. Airball's got the ace of clubs as well. Peter with the overpair.
55.
Peter bets 55,000. Keating calls. 292,000 in the pot.
260.
An airball
260,000.
with the check raise. Wow. Peter makes the fold. Does he make that fold if he's not up $500,000?
Fold. Run it out? Yeah, it's okay.
We'll get Neve show. Well, Peter wants to see my hand. Does anyone care if he looks?
They had king, queen?
No. I had a big hand.
What is it?
Aces.
Really? Do you have a club or no?
Ace of clubs.
So Airball was in the game for less than an hour, significantly less than an hour. Such a short session that at least the first of those highlights he was playing without having chips in front of him. But he played that $347,000 pot against Steve almost immediately after sitting down with King Jack against Jack 10 on the Jack high board. Played that hand very well, handled Steve's min bet weirdness quite well, I would say.
Used it against him.
Yeah, and gets in $100,000 worth of value on the river, out kicking Steve, and then has aces against Peter's queens. We talked about that hand a little bit, but Peter finds a fold on the flop with queens, and also played a pretty slow pre-flop, cold calling the 3-bet for 60K. So a couple of significant hands for Airball in not a lot of time.
Airball is another one of those guys who is a catalyst for big things to happen in the game. I mean, let's just think about the amount of money he won for the time he played on the show. I think he played for actually like 26 minutes, something like that, and he wins $450,000 in 26 minutes of play. That has to be a record on the show, and it's because Nick Airball, he creates. I mean, sure, he also got dealt pocket aces. He ran good, but not a lot of players could do that. He comes in, he makes an impact.
There's a lot to be said for showing up at the last hour.
Right,
that's true for anyone.
You were making an interesting comment, which was that he might not have done that if he...
The aces versus queens.
Yeah. If he had known that Peter was way up, right? Because when you're playing in a game normally, and you've been playing for 7 or 8 hours, you intuitively understand where these guys are mentally. When he's coming in cold like that at the end, he doesn't know that, right? And it's the kind of spot where if Peter was stuck a bunch of money.
You think Airball didn't know Peter was winning?
He certainly could have known.
He
was
knew,
on the street.
But,
I would bet every dollar I get my hands on, Airball knew that.
But still, though, the vibes of the table are hard to get through the television screen, right? You know when you're there. A lot of times when I'm watching some of these games, I see it some way, and then I talk to the players. They understand things. You do. When you're sitting with someone, you understand that. So even if he's up money, regardless, it doesn't matter because Airball, he's cold. He doesn't understand the way he's feeling. I think that if he did, he's not raising that.
Well, he came in cold in that he hadn't been at the table as long as everyone else when that hand was dealt to him. But he in a different way, he's come in hot. We've seen Nick Airball when he runs bad.
Yeah.
He starts to play bad like just about every single other poker player on the planet. But things have been going his way recently. He won a huge pot against Alan Keating not too long ago with 9s against Ace King. And that was a big turning point perhaps for him. And you see that he's now playing pretty well. Sure, the aces against queens can that's just running hot, and he didn't get max value there. Charlie, you said you would have preferred just a lead on that flop.
And it was a pre-flop raiser, so yeah, you could just go bet. I mean, I think that there are people who would say that in that spot, when you have aces, you can check raise because no one is folding a jack in that situation. Or if they had queens, they're not really supposed to have queens, but if they had queens, no one would fold that hand, or no one would fold a combo draw. But I think we found, I think that's less true than people think generally. And I also think we just found a time when someone like Peter is more willing to find those big folds in that kind of spot. So you can just go bet, and put the money in that way.
Right. So maybe he didn't play the aces great. He played the king jack phenomenal.
Very good, yeah.
He knew exactly what Steve's min bet plus whatever he said meant. And he used it against him. And I spoke about this earlier. And so now currently you're seeing an A-game airball. And the players weren't dying to have him in the lineup. We were 7-handed from the jump. Now, let me ask you, if we're 7-handed and we don't have Peter in the lineup, and Peter's walking around out there, I think they're rolling out the red carpet to put him in one of the empty seats. They weren't rolling out the red carpet for Nick Airball, and it's not because they don't like him. They all like him, and it's not because they're scared of him. But right now, he's running hot and playing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, to what do we attribute that? I mean, one of you said that it was partly because he's running hot that he continues to play well. It also just feels like in the year that we didn't see him, maybe he grew up some. I mean,
he had a kid.
Hey, he's a father now.
Yeah, he had a kid.
No, and that changes you.
How come that didn't work for me?
I'm sure it's coming any day.
Okay, I have 2 of them. They're like grown. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, Airball made a big splash, and he'll be here Wednesday, our next show. That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I heard we just got a new addition to the Wednesday lineup, Charlie.
Yeah, in fact, we have an announcement we can make right now, which is that we have a new player who's going to be joining us on Wednesday, and that is Olivares, who has played in the $1 Million game and also played in a bunch of other games here on HCL in the past. Let's take a look at a video package.
Let's go.
Geralibus.
Ooh, the plaques are out. We've run out of chips.
4. They look like chocolate bars. Geralibus.
What?
That's how that goes.
So it's funny, I think Doug has moved over a little bit, but Geralibus and Duan are actually quite close to each other. It's an interesting dynamic. And right out of the gate, look at this, queens versus jacks.
This is awkward, but this is 270, right? Okay.
Oh, no.
60. Welcome to the game, Geralibus.
I'm either going to double or ignite it.
Oh my, hands with jacks, Haralbus with queens. Come back to your screen now. You don't want to miss this hand.
No, I was out of this hand like 20 minutes ago.
You must have looked at my face like, why is Doug excited?
Yeah, I was like, what's the big deal, buddy?
You see that there's a 60K 4, but you're like, I'm going to double up to go home.
This is Haralbus' first hand.
Yeah, looks down at queens, puts in a standard 3-bet. Immediately gets 4-bet. That's a good fold hand. He has folding PTSD on our stage.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot, right?
Same as you. Hands, of course, the victim of that rampage bluff where he flopped top set and ended up folding to the rampage shove. If you missed that hand, it is recorded. It'll be archived on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's yeah. Do that, yeah.
Call 60.
Do you want to move everyone's chips to the other side? Is that
wait for
yeah?
Yeah, let's do that.
Heads up now.
Haralbus owns a soccer club, if that's how you say it.
10 high flop.
Should I restack it, Louie, or we want to
No, you can check. Around.
Interesting check back there.
We saw Rob do that earlier on this week, kind of playing a little bit of small ball with his overpairs.
Yeah, I think that one's for deception more than pot control. It's going to get Haralbus to bet 3% equity, so well done, Rob Young. You can just call here and get another street one way or another on the river.
Well, he did this the other day, and not only he checked back,
double through the first
and then he raised the river when his opponent bet the river too.
150.
And he's going to raise here.
Ah, this is bizarre. This is the strongest post-flop line of all time.
It's just nice for someone else to get put in a fuck spot for once.
To be fair, I don't think you put me in a fuck spot. You just put yourself in there.
Okay. I didn't choose to have my aces get jammed on.
What do I put in already?
You put in 50. Call 150.
Wow.
Don't give me them.
Trying to the case queen, we can see there's only one left. That's what that 3% tells us.
20 more.
20,000 on more. Two clocks down.
He's going to be stuck a lot after hand number one.
Yeah, if you thought Haralbus was salty coming into the game, how's he going to be 6 minutes in?
That ain't it, Dave.
No, and that's a blank. I mean, 6 doesn't change a thing. If your opponent was making some sort of move with like ace-5 or something, I'm trying to figure it out. But
check.
What are we thinking here? 250? You don't want to go too big in case he does have the pocket 10s.
250.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe, you know what, you might be good at this poker thing. Have you given it a shot?
Yeah, I never have aces against queens.
Your whoop heart rate variability.
679,000 in there, Haralbus, faced with a $250,000 bet.
Knows he's beat, but it's a good price.
He's not to have 10s, yeah? 10s or aces. Can't really beat anything.
Haralbus is going through all the possibilities. There's the call. He makes the call. $929,000 in the pot. Welcome to the game, Haralbus.
Chips.
Is there any worse feeling when you sit down in a game and you lose like half your buy-in in the very first hand?
So Haralbus Vulgaris played on one episode of the $1 Million Game in 2023, lost $160,000. Played actually some Max Payne Monday type games, and then also played 200, 400, 800 here on the stream. He's down $310,000 overall. But my impression is that he's a tough player when he wants to be. He's played in televised games going back over a decade. I think my first time seeing him play on TV was on the big game over a decade ago. He's professional sports bettor, former analytics guy for the Dallas Mavericks well before their recent high-profile, horrible decision. And we heard last night, actually, Alan Keating talk about how he was playing poker with Steph Curry when Steph Curry learned that the Luka Doncic trade went down. It would have been cool if Alan had told that story while Wilmoth was there, because it would have been classic to get his reaction to that. Now Wilmoth is the principal owner of a Spanish soccer club. He's a funny guy. He's a great needler at the table. He's very entertaining to watch. Has a great dog also.
He does Oscar.
Shout out Oscar.
Shout out to Oscar. Hopefully he'll bring Oscar. I don't know.
Yeah.
He has the paperwork to get Oscar into the casino. But the thing about having Bob on the show is he's another one of those guys, like the eccentric multi-millionaire guys. He is smart. This guy is sharp, right?
Yeah, he's going to be the Wednesday version of Steve, the smartest, most successful guy in the room.
Yes.
He's not as quirky as Steve, but he's very comfortable at any table, and he should be.
Right. He might not play ABC poker or GTO poker as the way people see it today, but he's there to make an impact. He's going to do weird things. He's going to talk to them when they're in a hand with them. He's going to ask them questions. He's going to get them a little off their game, and that's just, he's going to be great.
He's not going to play If you play GTO poker, you're not allowed in the Hustler Casino.
Oh, they check if you're a GTO player when you come in?
If you've heard of GTO, you're not allowed on this stage.
They must welcome you on your driver's license, and they'll turn you over.
You're out. Yeah. And these guys are all too wealthy to really play poker the right way.
Right.
Which makes for great entertainment.
That's what, some of my friends who aren't into poker, I was talking with them about the $1 million game, and to someone who doesn't play poker, they're thinking, oh, it's a $1 million game. That must be the greatest poker in the world. I mean, in a way it is, but it's not the way that you would think it would be, right? As the stakes get to a certain level, you just have such a small player pool, and the way that they want to experience poker, it's just different than any other poker game in the world.
Raver, you mentioned as we were watching that clip that hand we saw with Wilmoth having queens against aces was actually the first hand he got dealt in the $1 million game.
Guy loses $500,000 within 2 minutes of sitting down. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? He doesn't even have his chips. You see during the hand, he's taking the chips out of the Rex and then just has to give them away. Is there any worse feeling than that?
Well, when you lose all your chips. when Tina comes over with your rebuy or whatever, and you're like, just give it to him.
Yeah, just give it. She hasn't.
Here's my Edge Boost card. I need another one.
Bring me another one of those.
Yeah.
There was one day where I got stacked 3 times in like 10 minutes, and at one point, like the chip lady was like hovering behind me. She felt like
hovering.
It's never a great feeling. Every time the chip runner gets called to the table, they walk right to you, and you're like, look, this time it's not me.
Yeah.
Don't just assume it's me.
Well, you're a good customer.
For sure.
They all know you by name. That's
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah, so any more thoughts for all of us?
I think that we couldn't find many better people to add to this game because he's comfortable with the money. This guy, $1 million does not dent his bank account. And that's exactly the kind of person that you want to go to battle with Peter, Texas Mike, and Keating.
Doesn't dent his bank account, and he's got some gamble in him.
And he has some gamble in him. He's very famous for going all in on a couple of big sports bets. He did one, it was a basketball game.
The Lakers.
It was the Lakers to win the championship.
Right, to win the championship.
And the refs cheated, I think, that year.
Injured. And
then on Bitcoin in like 2016, when there was a big dip, he did the same thing. So to this guy, he's ready to gamble.
Yeah, $1 million isn't too much to him. I think Oscar's scarf collection is over $1 million. Yeah.
So we're gonna play a game now. We're gonna turn to the chat in a bit and answer some questions.
They said what? No game today? There's a game. We're gonna play it right now.
We're gonna play a game.
We're gonna not a poker game.
All right. Now you guys are happy out there.
Called All In or Fold. Raver, can you explain what you were thinking when you created this game?
Charlie will go through the different topics, and we're either all in or we fold.
How much time do we get on each?
45 seconds.
Okay.
So 15 each.
Okay.
Let it rip.
Yeah, let's see it.
There's a game after all.
I'm turning it on. They're going to a $2. We're hearing production in our ears, so let's go.
Did you guys like that game? Oh.
Yeah, wasn't that fun? What a great game. The game was to make you think that there was a game.
How do you guys like?
It's meta.
It's meta.
Yeah.
All those people who were complaining that there was no $1 million game today are no longer complaining.
Yeah, it says it right on the screen, $1 million game. Okay. So Peter runs it up and runs away. I don't know how we go all in or fold on this one, but Eric runs it up and runs away. Excuse me.
Yeah, so
we're recapping last night.
Yeah, I am all in on this because he can do what he wants. It's his money. He doesn't have to sit there and gamble. It's not a problem. I know that it caused, there were some people even here said, whoa, he should have stayed to the end. I mean, he should have stayed to the end. We were talking about the one thing they all had in common. Well, that's one thing he did not have in common with them. $1 million is significant money to him. He wants to go, he can go.
Well, he actually went beyond the 8 hours he was required to go. He went like a half hour beyond that. And even if he hadn't, I mean, he's well within his rights. If he only agreed to play for 8 hours.
So you're all in?
I'm all in.
I'm all in too. It's fine. And he kept the game alive.
Definitely.
Jack loses $1.5 million. I'm all in on that.
Any further thoughts?
I like going all in. I hate folding. No, I mean, he's a young guy. It builds character. His watch is worth $2 million. Did I steal your thing?
Yeah, well, no,
I didn't mean
you were
to.
about to, but it's fine.
I didn't mean to.
No, it's
all in.
Yeah, all in. It's fine. I'm sure he can afford it. He's got a $2 million watch. He can sell the watch if need be. Raver?
Yeah, I'm all in on this one too. I think Jack put on a performance for the ages. Look, he's about, I don't know, half as young as a lot of the guys at the table, and he played like he was a boss. He is fearless, right? Yeah. He loses the $1 million. No one would have said shit if he just walked away.
Hey, we're on to the next round of your fun game.
Okay. Haralabob.
Haralabob joins the third $1 million game. Billy, all in or fold?
I'm all in.
All in, me too. I think he's going to be awesome.
He's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
He's fun to commentate,
He's very fun to commentate.
He is fun to commentate. You can almost let him take it away at times, right? Like, let him talk.
If he's listening, please bring Oscar. You have to.
Yeah, he's a great talker. He will do riffs. He will needle people in interesting ways. He'll play interesting poker too. Thoughtful, interesting poker where you can assume that something pretty interesting is going on upstairs. I like Haralabos a lot. I'm ready to see him.
So you're all in for the
all
record?
In.
Okay.
Okay. Nick Airball joins the third $1 million game. I mean, who's going to fold on this one? But go ahead, Raver.
I am going to have to fold on this. I think that he should not be. It's kidding. I'm all in. I am all in. Let's see some mayhem. I want to see Airball battling these guys, right? Look, the way that this game plays is going to be different because he's in it, right? It's just going to be different. He's there, and it's going to be a little more serious.
Yeah, I'm all in, of course, also, and it's sort of a cascading effect. The right person sits down in the game. They do things that are interesting, but also they make everyone else do things that are interesting. I think Airball is one of those players.
He's entertainment. He's one of the most famous poker players in the world, and for good reason. He's a character. I'm all in.
Okay. Third year of the $1 million game, day one, the best day one ever. Raver, all in or fold?
I'm all in on this. I absolutely think it was. Although earlier in the show when we were discussing it, it actually made me think twice, but it was the best.
Okay, I am going to fold this one, but it's close. I think this was clearly better than 2023 day one, but it's slightly behind 2024 day one because of the 10-deuce bluff. Quickly, Billy?
I go all in. I think that the hand between Keating and Peter, and Jack was involved for a while, is just the best hand I've seen. I think Keating played it expert level, and Peter somehow played it better.
Okay, parking lot Peter, all in or fold, Raver?
I have to fold this one. Even though I love the guy, he can do what he wants, but it just sucks that by him leaving like that, it's taking something away from the other players' experience, right? They want to be there. They want to play Peter. Imagine being stuck like Alan Keating was $1 million, and this freaking guy is getting up to go in the parking lot every 45 minutes.
So you fold.
I fold.
Yeah, I fold too. Again, he's allowed to do it. It's fine, but it's not what I want to see. Billy?
I'm all in. I like it.
You like it?
I mean,
this is a hot take.
I do. This is a hot take. But you need a villain, and more importantly, the other guys at the table have everything going for them. It's just life's too easy for him. So you want this guy in the game, and he wants to take breaks. I kind of love it. Like, you don't get everything in life.
No, that's definitely true.
You need storylines in poker.
That is also true. I mean, he's given us a lot of content.
He is. He's giving us a lot of content.
I don't know if I folded yet.
Thank you, Peter. I'm all in.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. And look, Peter, no one tells Peter what to do. Okay? We have trouble even when we're telling him when to get to a certain game. We oftentimes have to adjust the start time to this or that because, it's whenever Peter gets here, that's when the game is going to start, right? He lives his life in this way. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Why is this ahead of that?
To tell him what's going to be on the screen.
Okay, let's hop to the next one, which is Texas Mike will repeat his performance on day 2 of the $1 million game. Raver, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely all in on this one. I mean, look, my heart is all in. My mind maybe says check fold. I don't know. He pulled off a hat trick in this first night, right? He's the biggest winner. He has the highest VPIP. He has the highest PFR, right? There's nothing, you cannot match that performance. This is like the flu game for Michael Jordan or something. This is like a performance for the ages.
I'm not sure if Texas Mike is going to win $1.5 million again, but I know he's going to be action in the same crazy way. I would bet on a VPIP in the 80s again, so I'm all in.
I'm 100% all in. Heaters are real. Let's keep it going. Texas Mike.
Okay, and the last one, Keating gets revenge on day 2 of the $1 million game tomorrow. Raver.
I'm going to check this one. I don't know. I feel like I could go either way.
The game is all in or fold, Raver. You made it up. This is
no, you can check.
This is the only game we have for these people who are pissed off.
All right. I'm all in. Okay, geez, pull it out of me. I'm all in. I want him to get revenge, but again, it's tough, man. The guy's only sitting at the table for 20 minutes out of every hour. You don't have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, and let's keep in mind that Keating gets revenge for what? For winning $450,000 yesterday. It was a pretty good day for Keating, all things considered. But yeah, if he can keep Peter at the table, I'm all in on Keating getting revenge. Big if, but go ahead, Billy.
I'm all in as well. Keating came to play. He came to give his fans something else to root for, his great poker talent. And you're going to see that. You saw it last night. You're going to see it tomorrow night as well.
Okay. This is fun, Raver.
Thank you. I wanted to give them a game, right? We had to have a game.
I looked at some of these prompts and I was like, what is Raver going for? But it turned out well, as it usually does.
Are you guys happy now? You got your
game, just like you wanted. This is what they wanted.
Okay, so we'd like now to take some questions from the chat. So if you have any questions for us about the $1 million game this week, please fire away. I believe we're also going to get Ryan Feldman on the show here in a bit. Hopefully I'm not slow rolling everybody on that, but hopefully that's what's coming as we get headed to the last hour.
Do you think they would have made it 8-handed for Ryan Feldman last night?
I think
they would have. I think they would have made it 11-handed for Ryan Feldman.
Yeah.
You know, there is an impact too when Ryan comes down here and he's gambling, where he has his work crew upstairs, right? These guys you've been in that room. You know how hot it is, and they're up there sweating their asses off, and he's down here punting hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, so I think it was just a bad look.
He's running bad.
He's been running bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's Q&A time. Fire away.
A bunch of questions about Daniel Negreanu so far. Does anyone want to take that particular hot potato?
We haven't heard anything. It would be amazing.
Yeah. Ryan's working. He's working angles. I know right now he's having frantic phone calls with many a player. The issue now is that even D-Negs, it can be difficult to move $1 million+ to a casino in 12 hours or however long you'd have to do it. Remember, day 2 is going to be tomorrow night at 4 p.m. I mean, you have 22 hours to do it, to get it done, but it's tough, right? The guy not only has to want to play in the game, then has to be able to transfer the money in. Someone like D-Negs, who is very zen himself, enjoys doing yoga.
You ever seen his rants after playing Doug?
I guess, but I don't think he would want the chaos of deciding this big thing the day before, and then suddenly have to move, get this all done and change his mindset.
So the answer is maybe. And chat amateur Nicholas Flores asks lineup for the game tomorrow. That's a fair question.
That's a fair question.
That one. You've got the whole
So okay,
right?
so right now. Actually, I'm being told that Ryan is going to come down and tell us. Right now, Ryan? Okay, the people want to know. He says 5 minutes. All right, we'll hold off 5 minutes, and that will be because he is working the phones. He is doing things literally as we speak, so he might want a moment to get things organized. But it's going to be a rather similar game with a couple of new, fresh faces, and it should make one thing that Ryan Feldman is very good at is he understands how these different dynamics interact with each other. A lot of times, for a game, he'll say, oh, no, they're not going to play well together, right? And it's two players that I would think would be a lot of action, but he understands combining this style with this style does or doesn't work. And so
they're pissed at me for going all in on parking lot Peter. Of course, if I'm in the game, I want him at the table, and if I'm watching, I want him at the table. But also, I think there's something kind of poetic about it. So that's what I meant by that all in.
No, I agree. There is.
I'm all for poetry.
I'm all for poetry, cinema, storylines. Yeah. That was the storyline, and I don't think Peter would ever admit it, but I have a feeling that there's a little bit of big bro syndrome going on there where, you're doing something and it's bothering your little brother, and you just keep doing it.
There's a ton of questions. Yeah, we covered this.
Yeah.
Is Friday the last game or tomorrow? No, there's 2 more games, tomorrow and Thursday.
Yep. Wednesday and Thursday. There will be 3 games this year. Yesterday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
There is an outside chance of a game Friday, I believe. It would be a bonus day, maybe, but certain things have to happen. The right players still have money. It's possible. Nothing's impossible.
Will I do red and black flips? Yeah, tonight, Chairman James, I will.
It is really unbelievably difficult to put these games together.
It is unbelievably difficult and stressful. Let me tell you, no one can truly appreciate the stress that is involved in getting these games together. Let me tell you, the amount of times that this lineup has changed over the past several months would blow people's minds. This guy's in. Everyone's in and out, and in and out, and in and out, and then this guy's out, and he's out, and this guy's in, and then he's out. And it's just hard to get people to commit to $2+ million, because that's really what they need. None of these guys, let me tell you something, none of these guys want to come here with $1 million, because if they get felted and they have to leave, or it's embarrassing, right? They want to show the world that they're a boss. They want to have a lot of money here. They can rebuy, they can play again. And so it really involves transferring $2 to $3 million here, and it's harder than you think, even the guys that can afford it.
Charlie, here's one for you. How much did you pay Mickey Mace to come and play the satellite on Sunday?
Yeah.
A lot.
Was I the one who paid? I was the one who paid,
Just
right?
admit it, yes.
Let's say $50. $50, that's a lot for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Mickey, of course, repeatedly insisting that he was paid to be here, which was...
No one's ever paid to be
to
here.
a lot of people, but not.
Well, he could be
not
paid by
news to
someone else, or I don't know.
Oh, that's true, actually. Okay, the way he probably meant it was, one thing that I will say Mickey is talented at is these rapper guys, these guys kind of in the hip hop kind of urban scene, they believe in him as this godly gambler, right? And they want to bet on him to win. And that's a lot of times where he's betting these guys, oh, hey, it's $500K to go bet on this or whatever. And I who knows?
When does day 2 start?
Day 2 starts tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
No pregame show.
No pregame show.
Can we come and play all in or fold by ourselves, not stream it?
We could play all in or fold. Yes. Do you think they would like that instead?
Maybe we just tell Olivares and the others that we're going to hear about, nah, you guys don't need to show up tomorrow. We found something the chat pros like a little bit better. It's the three-handed all-in or fold.
Yeah, and it's questions that Raver wrote at like 6 in the morning. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's see, who has a good question? People really like Mickey. That's one thing I love about Mickey is he has a very loyal fan base. They all love him.
He's a great dude.
He's a great dude, and they just want to show their love and support for Mickey, and it's just great. Thank you, guys.
Actually, my girlfriend was on an airplane just this week, and she gave up her seat, which was an exit row type seat, for a former pro basketball player. She didn't know who was over 7 feet tall.
Wow.
And ended up sitting next to him, and she mentioned that I was a poker player, and he said, oh yeah, the only thing I know about poker is Mickey, that guy with the tattoos.
Right, and that's actually the case for a lot of different people, because they don't watch poker. They're into different things, but for some, Mickey has cracked through. He is someone that they all know about, and now we are joined by the man himself, Ryan Feldman. Thank you for joining us. So can you give us the official, as of a minute ago, what is the lineup for tomorrow?
Okay, so before I do that, here's the situation. So, tomorrow's game, Wednesday's game, was always kind of the most like influx game of the week.
Yeah.
We were in good shape for day 1 on Monday. We were in pretty good shape the whole time for day 3 on Thursday, which we still are. But that middle game, we always kind of had a spot or two to fill, trying to figure it out. We had like 2 people that were almost for sure in that, I don't want to like say who, but that who dropped out at some point last week or over the weekend. And so, you know, we had 5 people firmly in as of the beginning of this week. So we kind of had to figure out what to do. I kind of played it by ear to see like if somebody comes about. That's why on Sunday, so going into the tournament on Sunday, you know, we decided, one, let's see how many entries we get, because there's definitely a chance that we get more than we expected and get 2 people in, right? Or, you know, maybe if we got to like 800K for a second place, that we would say, you know what, the second place person is going to play, we're going to let them play with 800K instead of $1 million, make an exception, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't. We got to like 1.275, so it was, you know, $1 million for first, small amounts for second, third, and fourth. Then we said, what if we do a second one on Tuesday and kind of just do another satellite and see what happens? Try to do that. It's hard to do last minute. You know, we kind of promoted this other one for like a week. And I just couldn't get most of the people from Sunday to be willing to fire another bullet or 2 on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It just, whether it's the day or just the money or whatever it was, I just couldn't get, you know, the people to do it. It was a small amount from that group that said yes, and then it would have had to been a bunch of pros, which I don't really want to do. I don't want to throw a pro in. You know, if we wanted to do that.
What about Francisco?
He's a pro, that's fine.
Okay.
But if we're going to do that, there's pros out there that we could say okay to, that could just buy in $1 million, that would be willing to do it. But it's like, you know, the dynamic of the lineups and those things are very finicky. And, you know, we have a small player pool of players that are willing to play this game, that we want to play this game. And we have to make sure that it's a player that nobody's going to oppose. It's a player that.
So what the heck is the lineup?
Hold on, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. We have 40 minutes, right?
Okay.
So I'm just explaining the backstory first.
Okay, all right.
So, yeah, so it's tough because there's people that we could throw in there, but like players are very particular about who they want to play with, right? So we had to decide, what do we do? So as of even last night and today, I'm trying to like go through the Rolodex, trying to figure out who we can add in and what's the backup plan. And so after further review and reviewing all the options, all the possible options, we decided to, people are gonna, you know, probably be upset at this or criticize, but I'm okay with that. But we're gonna change tomorrow's game to a 500K buy-in.
Oh, okay.
To get a few more players in that are more fun. The other route would be to not have a game tomorrow and just wait for Thursday for game 2. And just because we didn't have a good enough full lineup tomorrow, we could have just canceled it. But we said if the two options are cancel tomorrow and I mean, I guess there's a third option too, which is like throw pros in there that people might oppose and back out from, right? So it's that option. It's cancel tomorrow and just do Thursday and just have 2 days, which was always a possibility in my mind, kind of behind the scenes, or change it to 500K, see who we can get, and if it gives us a better lineup and a better game, let's do it.
Let's be clear, this is a 500K minimum buy-in.
Minimum, yeah.
Alan Keating's not buying in for 500K.
So it's 500K minimum buy-in, still a 501K, 2K big blind any game, same stakes, but it's 500K minimum. There's still going to be people that are buying in $1 million plus, I would think.
When was this decision made? Just to give people the kind of the inside baseball.
Just a little while ago, earlier this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and since we kind of decided that, I've been behind the scenes trying to figure out who we can add to the lineup. Now that it's 500K, you know, are there players that would play those stakes for that buy-in that wouldn't play $1 million buy-in? And so, and by the way, Haralbos, like you guys mentioned earlier, he was added to the lineup yesterday.
Yeah.
He was tentative or possible a couple of days ago. Yesterday he was in, so he was added, whether it's $1 million buy-in or 500K buy-in. But you know, now we have to fill that last spot still, and that's why we decided the 500K buy-in. So right now there's a few pieces of the lineup that are in flux and not 100%. I will announce that Brittany is in for tomorrow.
Okay. Brittany is in. Wait, is this the first time anyone's hearing this? I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
okay.
Brittany's in for tomorrow, 500K buy-in.
Let's go.
You know, we have the rest of the lineup, which was tentative earlier, that you know, which is just the lineup that was confirmed plus Haralbos. I will say there's one or two pieces in there that aren't 100% yet, and so there is a chance that there's another player added to the lineup. There's a few offers out there, you know, to play, and we're trying to see. I'm waiting to see which of those people responds that they're in, that they could come up with enough for the buy-in. And so we're going to do a 500K buy-in tomorrow. We will announce the finalized lineup probably late tonight.
Mm-hmm. Who's in though?
Well, who's 100% in is Brittany. Peter, Texas Mike, Brittany, Airball. Keating should be in. Jack is most likely in. Mm-hmm. And so that's the lineup. And Haralbos, right? Did I say
7.
That? Yeah, so that's the lineup. But like I said, one or two of those aren't 100% yet. And once we get that confirmation, then we're good. But if somebody wants to take the day off, and wait till Thursday, which one of those might, then we'll sub somebody else in, or we might just make it eight-handed and add someone in anyway. So we'll see. The point is, there's 3 players that people would want to see. I won't say who yet, but there's 3 players that people would want to see that are kind of feeling it out right now, deciding if they want to play or not. Now that it's 500K, and I'm pretty confident that we'll get at least one of those, and that'll make the lineup better. You know, these aren't boring pros. These aren't players that people don't know. These are players that could possibly be in that people are going to be excited about.
I want to say something real quick. So I see the chat is disappointed.
Yeah, same reaction as 2 years ago.
That's what I was going to say.
This has happened before.
Yeah, we did it once with Aussie Matt.
And that game was amazing.
No one remembers this, but the first $1 million game, the middle game was also a 500K buy-in. The second game. The first game was a little too tight. So you made the second game a 500K buy-in, and everyone was upset. And then when they watched the show, they said, wow, this is better. There's more action players in it. And then you went back to the $1 million game for the next day, and I think it was a success. So that's why when you said it, I didn't feel any sort of negative.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I get it. It's the $1 million game. So by having a 500K buy-in, it just goes against what the $1 million game is. It goes against the branding. I get it. I'm the first person to tell you that it's very important to me to have a $1 million buy-in. That's what's special about the $1 million game. 1,000%, you're right. We did a $1 million game yesterday. It was amazing. We had 34,000 people watching. We had two $2 million pots. We had, 4 or 5 $1 million pots. The game was amazing. this Thursday, the game's going to be amazing, okay? So the options were, do we just shorten it to 2 games because that's what works out with the player pool that we're targeting? Or do we put a one in the middle that is also an amazing lineup, and we're just going to do a 500K buy-in and encourage more gambling? So that's the option. Those are the tough decisions that I have to make as a producer, and it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be easy, but there is attrition. There are things that happen with players, like you mentioned earlier, about people being in and out for all different behind-the-scenes reasons. And, you know, I have to make a decision, like, how do I proceed best? What's the best way? Another off day, or throw somebody in that people don't want, or get the best lineup possible? Because in the end, like, isn't that the goal of the show? Isn't that my job, my goal every single show, is how do we put together the most action lineup, the most fun lineup, the most entertaining lineup, whatever that is on a given day? That's what we're doing tomorrow. It goes against the brand. I agree. 500K buy-in is not the same as $1 million buy-in, but it's just one day. We still have 2 days of amazing $1 million buy-in games. You know, by the end of the week, we'll have had, what, 11 $1 million games in 2 years, and 9 of them are $1 million buy-ins. Nobody else does that. Nobody else has had that, right? And so we're doing something special here. It's working. I'm okay with the criticism. I'm okay the point that we're at right now with anybody being upset about it. I think people are still going to watch. I think we're going to have a lot of good clips from it. And the players, in the end, are the most important. As important as the fans are, and the media, and this and that, the players are the most important. Without the players, we don't have a game ever, right? Those are the people that are putting up real money, that are showing up here, that are gambling, that are playing, and a big percentage of those players are losing millions of dollars, right? And so we have to cater to them. We have to figure out a way to put together the most fun lineup for all of those players to play with each other in, and that's what we're doing. I know it's disappointing. I hope you guys still watch. It's going to be a great show.
I have a multi-part question here about Daniel Negreanu. There have been whispers about Negreanu potentially playing on the show since the ownership change, and those were amplified a couple weeks ago by Alan Keating tweeting about Negreanu being invited to the show. Did you reach out to D-Negs, and how do you and maybe some of the other players on the show feel about including players like Daniel?
Yeah, so everybody would have been fine with Daniel playing in the $1 million game. I did reach out to him. I talked to him about playing on the show, about playing the $1 million game specifically as well. You know, he said that he's not a big cash player. He's focused on tourneys. If he's going to play, he prefers to play at stakes where he can splash around a little bit more, not where he can, you know, has to take it really serious when there's $1 million on the table. So 100, 200, 200, 400 was like his comfort zone for a fun, splashy game. So that's, you're laughing because
only 200, 400.
So it's going to happen. We're going to do it this year. We tried to, we tried to find a date that would work for him before the World Series of Poker. It's not going to work. We'll do it after the World Series of Poker. That's his summer. I'm pretty confident later in the year that we're going to get something fun. There's a lot of players here that want to play with him when he makes his debut, and so that will definitely be an event when it happens.
So that's not the holdup at all?
No, it never was. And, you know, I did talk to Alan about that a while back, about, like, what would you think if I could get Daniel to play? And he was like, that would be cool. Like, I would love to see, like, a challenge of him playing 1,000 big blind deep in a huge cash game. That would be kind of cool to play with, you know, just to see what happens, get him out of his comfort zone. So his tweet was very authentic to his feelings, and he did want to see him play. Like Alan, yeah, he wants to play against, you know, a certain level of, like, fun opponents, but he also understands, like, what brings the views, and that's important too. And so he would have, as a poker fan, loved to play with Daniel Negreanu, but we'll do it later in the year.
It's okay. Look, Ryan's covering for him. We all know that Daniel Negreanu is scared to play Alan Keating. That is a fact. You can just tell them. It's okay. We were making up all these stories. He's scared. He won't do it.
So the options were have a $500,000 game in between the $2 million games.
Yep.
Or not have a game. Did you ever consider just having us three play all in or fold tomorrow?
Because we'll do that.
Yeah, that
we're all in.
That's literally what the off day would have been. Is you guys talking again.
They really loved us playing all in or
fold. Well,
fold.
let's see. We got 3K people watching. You guys play all in or fold.
Yep.
We had 34,000 watching yesterday. Pretty sure tomorrow, even with a 500K buy-in, we'll have at least 25K watching. We'll have another 30-something K watching on Thursday. So I think, in terms of business, we'll go with the 500K buy-in game as the best option.
Let's talk about the pros and cons. And first, let's go through the pros of a 500K game. I actually think that because the blind structure is the same, the stacks are slightly less deep, or at least some of them will be, it may create more action.
Oh, it will. Right.
Yeah.
It's just you won't have as big of pots possibly in theory because it's harder to have those $2 million pots when people are buying in 500 sometimes. So that's the difference. Is like, yeah, you might have more action. People might play more hands. They're not going to play as tight because they're not as deep.
But the difference between getting 500 big blinds in and getting 1,000 big blinds in it's so big. It's massive, right? I mean, I've played many 500 big blind pots. I'm sure you guys have, but probably in my lifetime, or in most poker players' lifetime, the number of 1,000 or multi-thousand big blind pots, it's maybe one or two, or it doesn't happen, and that is part of what makes this game so special. People say, oh, it's the $1 million, but it's also just these guys are playing deep, man.
Yeah.
And those stacks will get deep. I mean, the 500K will turn into $1 million.
Can I want to ask about something that sometimes you hear about in the chat, people find frustrating, which is you see these bigger games, and they're frequently playing 6 or 7-handed. Sometimes that can be because it's hard to fill the seats, I assume. But I also assume that that's because there are certain people who like playing shorthanded.
Right.
How do you deal with that? Is that the case, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, in this case, this week, that is the case for these stakes that a lot of the players, or some of the players, prefer playing 7-handed. You heard Alan talking about it yesterday in the game. He said, 8, is okay because in case somebody leaves, you still have like a decent game. 6-handed is too short because then if someone busts or leaves, then you're too short. 7's perfect. And so like a lot of people think a 7 is ideal. The viewers always want to see the table full. I get it. So yeah, everybody has their preferences, right? Based on their style and what they like. But I have to go by what the players want. And if the players want it to be a certain handed, if I know that these players are going to be more happy if it's 8 or 9-handed, I go 8 or 9-handed. If I know these players are going to be more happy if it's 6 or 7-handed, we go 7-handed. And, I only try to push so much for what I think is best for the show. I have to listen to what the players say, and that's why I'm able to get them back here all the time, right?
I mean, there's just a sort of herding cats aspect to all of this. I mean, another element of that potentially is, are players ever reluctant to play for this kind of money on stream as opposed to perhaps in a private setting?
1,000%. If I could do $1 million game in a private game, probably easier than I could here. There's so many people, or at least these stakes. There's so many people that I know that I've tried to get for years that just have thought about it, but they just don't want to be on camera, or at least don't want to be on camera playing for these stakes. But the players that play this big exist. I mean, there's games, almost every week that in LA or in different areas that are playing for bigger stakes than we're playing for this week.
Can I ask a question? So you have a core of people that would play for $1 million tomorrow. What if, when we're done with this, you see some text messages from people who have been invited to play for $1 million? Would you change it back to $1 million if that happens? If Daniel Grano says, whatever, I'll play for $1 million. Doug Poe, whoever you have invited, I don't know.
If it doesn't affect the rest of the lineup, yes. But if it affects 1 or 2 people that are currently in the lineup where they don't want to play anymore, then no. I mean, we have to do what keeps the core players in the lineup.
Right.
And yeah, if someone comes about that doesn't change that, then absolutely, I'd rather have the $1 million buy-in. But if we can get a better game and a more full game at 500K buy-in, that's better than not having a game.
Cool. And some players probably will buy in for $1 million. Airball.
Yeah, especially if I ask them to, which I never do really ask players to do anything, but how to buy in or anything like that. But if I say hey, can you just buy in for $1 million anyway? It's $1 million game.
No big deal.
I'm pretty sure most of them will.
Yeah. That'd be cool. I think that would take.
I think Texas Mike probably liked the 500K idea because he could just treat it as a bullet.
Right.
Fire it in.
We kind of did that with the $1 million buy-in though too.
The Ace King.
Yeah.
How did the idea for the satellite come about? And do you feel like it was a success?
Oh, huge success.
Yeah, I thought it was great. So I kind of just like thought about it a while back, a few months ago. I honestly don't remember if who I talked to about it or what. I honestly don't remember, but it was always something in my mind of like this would be a cool thing to do. And I just didn't think that it was like really feasible for whatever reason this year, because we didn't have as much planning for the $1 Million Game this year as we usually do. We only kind of, once we announced it, we had like a month or so.
Yeah.
So I was just like, man, this would be fun to do, but I don't think it's, I think it just takes too much planning to do. It's not going to happen. We'd never run a tournament here before, right? And then because of the situation, knowing that we need more players this week as people are dropping out, what was it, a week and a half ago or something like that, 2 weeks ago, I just said to myself, let me just send a group text to like 20 or 30 like people from the show that I'd want to be in this and say, hey, if we did this for 10K or 25K, would you do this?
And then you posted it on Twitter within 2 hours of thinking of it?
Probably, I don't know. Yeah, so
it moved fast.
I sent a text and I got all these positive responses. They're like, yeah, I do it. So I just created a group, like a WhatsApp group, and just like added everyone that I'd like to play it, like, I don't know, 40 people or something, and just said like, hey, here's what we're doing. We're gonna do a 25K. Do you want to play it? And a few people were like, oh, it's too much. I'd do it if it was like 10K or 5K. But I was like, well, we can't, because that's not going to get us to a million. And it seemed like I could get enough people to reach 1 million, especially with rebuys, if we do a 25K. So I just kept inviting people, kept brainstorming. Then I tweeted it. People came to me and asked. Most of the people I said no to, but there were some people I didn't think of that hit me up afterwards. Lingren being one of them. And I was like, he's borderline, but like, I think Lingren's kind of a cool name, cool character, old school pro. Like, it'd be kind of nostalgic. Sure, why not? I like him, nice guy. And I just made the group, and we just kept getting more and more players as time went on, and then made sure everyone was in, and everyone was in. So that was kind of the idea, and it worked out. First time we've run a tournament here, probably will lead to more high roller tournaments in the future.
What other contexts do you? I mean, I wanted to ask about the viability of that format potentially in situations other than the $1 Million Game.
Yeah.
Could we do something like this again?
That's what. I think now
Charlie's
that
been asking for this for years.
I think it could be great. Like, I have like a case for these kinds of sit-and-go or small.
Because we don't have it in LA. We don't have a high roller private tournament poker scene in LA, right? So if we do an invite only or maybe an open one, or maybe the Triton format, divide the two fields up, which I thought about if we were going to do a second one. There's so many things we could do here with the poker ecosystem in LA, and it doesn't need to be a guarantee like we did the other day with $1 million, but it's just whatever the prize pool is, it is, and we do a normal
or it
structure.
Could be sort of satellite into a Friday game or something potentially.
Yeah, but like anyone, I would say if I'm going to invite a private scene to a 25K, those are probably people that could all play a normal Friday game anyway.
Okay.
But there are people that just like tournaments, and we can get trophies, and we can just call it like some name for like the series, the Hustler Casino Live Tournament Series or whatever it is. And we do 30, 40, 50 people, however many we can get on a weekend, play on a Saturday, stream the final table on Sunday, and start doing that a couple times a year.
About the differences. We were talking about this, but we don't really know, because I know a little bit because I hear you talking to these guys, but the difference in the player pool of someone who wants to play for 100, 200,000 for someone who wants to play for $1 million. How much smaller is that player pool?
Yeah, I mean, the difference between 100K and $1 million is huge. There's just not that many people. There's people that say that they're willing, and then it kind of every year, right? Like you talked about earlier, it's like 2 months out, I have like 20 people that are probably in, and then the week before we have like 8 people, right? It's happened all 3 years, and so that's what makes me want to do less and less of these each year, because it's just harder to get 3-4 days of it. But yeah, 100K buy-in, I can get a lot of people. I mean, I don't know if I could put a game together that's high quality every single Friday, but we can do it a lot. And when you're doing this $1 Million Game, like there's a few people that are the same people each day, and so if one of the if we have if we have 7 people scheduled for 3 days, right? And it's 3 of those people are the same people every day. Well, if one of them drops out, then now we have 6 players each day, and now we need to add 3 players.
People,
right? In theory. So it's like there's some people that could play one day. So it is really hard, and it really does rely on a couple people that are the core people in the group. Like this year, Keating, Texas Mike, Peter, right? And if one of them is ever unhappy and doesn't want to play, then that just messes everything up. And so I would say also that the big difference between 100K buy-in and $1 million is that some people are going to be more careful about who they play with when they're playing for $1 million, because that's a lot more money, right? Where if they're playing for 50K or 100K, like those same players might be like, okay, it's fine. Like if the lineup's not A+, it's okay, like it's within my comfort zone. But for $1 million, I need to take this serious. I need to make sure that the lineup is worth playing.
Can you talk to us about the politicking of this? Like, I noticed some of that was happening late in the game, and some of the chatters were asking about it. When Airball joined, was there a little pushback on Airball joining that game?
Well, no, when he joined there wasn't pushback, but beforehand, when I thought the idea of it, I wanted to ask a few people, like, hey, does anybody oppose? You guys have been battling for 8 hours, like, you guys are tired, like, he's not fresh because he's been playing, but he's fresh in terms of this game. He's playing Wednesday anyway, but like, if you guys want to fill a seat and keep the game going for a few hours, there are options there. If not, no big deal. We've already done 8 hours. We can end the show whenever. It's totally up to you guys. Like, I didn't put pressure on anyone. I just want to know, like, do you want a player so you can keep it going, or do you want to just, end it soon? And there was some thought to that, and ultimately the decision was bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the chat seems to wonder about a lot is why it can be difficult for players to come in as substitute when players bust. You sort of alluded to the problems there.
Look, there's no 500 1K game on the floor that people can warm up in. There's the biggest game on the floor typically is 5-10. Maybe slightly bigger sometimes, right? Maybe 10-20 or 10-20-40 once in a blue moon, but usually 5-10, right? So, if someone's waiting for a 100K buying game, a 50K buying game, and $1 million buying game, there's nowhere for them to play on the floor, right? Like, the warm-up game might be Baccarat, not 5-10.
Yeah.
So, yesterday was a little bit of an exception because there was like a 25-50 game or something upstairs, or 10-20-40, whatever it was.
25-50.
And so that's a little bit closer, but still, you're talking about 25-50 or 500-1,000. I can't ask someone to be an alternate and wait at the casino for 10 hours and maybe they never get in the game, right? The more likely option is call them and they can drive in from an hour away and come when someone busts. But also, it's hard to get funds here, and not everyone keeps all their money at the cage, especially for a game of this size. So if someone doesn't know they're going to play, they don't want to wire in $1 million 3 days in advance to be an alternate, right? They're either in or they're not. If they're in, they'll wire it in. If they're not, there's no last-minute option for someone to wire in at 9 p.m. on a Monday. It's just and not many people are keeping $1 million or $2 million cash in their house.
That was another question I had written down, which is that just the mechanics of getting this much money to the casino to play, it must be very, very difficult. I mean, if you can elaborate on that.
And luckily, I have to deal with it to a degree, but I don't, because it's the casino. It's them with the casino. Like, if they want to play, they have to be responsible. And year one is a little bit harder, just coordinating all that. I was a little nervous making sure people got their money here. By this year, just like, I don't want anything to do with like helping any of that, in terms of like, hey, did you get your money here? You get your money? No, it's just like, I'm just going to assume that if you're playing in the game, you got it. If they text me and say like, hey, can you ask the casino if they got the wire? Sure. Luckily, everybody that played yesterday either wired in or already had, chips in the players bank from playing. So it was very like easy this year compared to past years in terms of that. But that's between them and the casino. I have to deal with the lineup, the production, all of that stuff. But from players' perspective, it is really hard. It's like not everyone keeps millions of dollars in their bank and wants to wire it. Now, the people that do, so much easier to deal with those people than anyone else, but not everyone's like that. Other people have to like figure out, well, all right, my money's here, it's there, like, how do I get $1 million here? And that's why you have to plan these things like a month or two in advance.
We've had that footage in the theme of Blank Check Ben pulling out the bricks and bricks of 100K in cash, and that is very much not generally a great idea to do.
No.
Most people don't have that kind of cash around. It's not like a 5-10 game in that.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are playing here regularly, they just typically just keep a bunch of chips in the cage and deposit in advance and all of that. The people that need to send more in that are from out of town, they're going to wire. So someone like a Keating, you know, he comes, he wires, he's done, he wires out. That's the easiest way to do things. But yeah, there's a lot of logistics, and that's why you can't have an alternate usually. Airball's a special case because he's local, he plays here all the time, he has chips in the players bank, so sure, he's willing to be an alternate if that's what it takes. But most people, that's not the case. I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not going to tell Shaun Perry to fly here from Vegas to be an alternate and go hang out at the casino for 8 hours. Yeah. You know, it's just not a thing.
There is one way. There is Edge Boost, right? This card that's probably going to be returning very soon to advertising on our show and is going to be physically in Hustler. It, in theory, will soon allow you to transfer $1 million. It would have solved this whole problem.
Yeah,
these guys could have just boosted.
You keep it in your bank, and then you transfer it, or sorry, you keep it in your bank account with them, and then you have this card on you, and if you need it for backup funds, you go up to the cage and they.
Raver?
On here?
Yeah.
I have $1.5. Dollars. Yeah.
You have $1.50.
Well, yeah, so you go edgeboost.bet/hustler to sign up, and you'll be gold service. They now
any casino anywhere, right?
Any casino anywhere, but right now they paused with us because they want to be. They're going to have a presence here at Hustler before they start
for signing up.
Yeah, for signing up and getting people onboarded. But it's an amazing product. They're the official card for the World Series of Poker, and because it has 100% approval rate, right? I mean, I'm sure you've been in this situation before, right? It's late at night, it's probably 5, 6 in the morning. You run out of chips, and you go to the ATM, and you have money in your account, or maybe you don't, I don't know. But you're trying to get $1,000.
Wow, how did I?
You do, you don't.
I'm not throwing under the bus in a fucking Edge Boost commercial.
I almost said to clarify that he's pointing at Billy, not at me.
Yeah. But no, it's your money.
$600 limit.
And you have a limit. And now you can get around that. It's 100% approval rate.
So you can throw your $1 million on there.
Yeah. Your $1 million tenths of a cent.
That was a great.
Thank you.
Segue.
That was a great improv commercial for Edge Boost.
Yep. So everyone's really excited. I think that actually the 500K buy-in counterintuitively is going to lead to more action on the table. You have Brittany on the table, so the table is going to be better looking, right? We can all agree on that.
I mean, I would hope so, yeah.
And it should be a fun night of poker. You know, people really do forget that Aussie Matt night was
insane.
It was bonkers, yeah. It was absolutely insane. And the players just wanted him to stay. If you remember that last hand with JRB, right? And they got it in, and JRB realized that he had Matt dominated. And they wanted to run it 3 times.
Yes.
And we never let people run it 3 times on this show. And so Louis comes down and in the end, JRB just kind of put his foot down and said, hey, it's our money, we're gonna run it 3 times, because he wanted Matt to stay in that game. And I think you're going to see a lot of that in the game tomorrow, where there's just I'm sure these people that Ryan has on deck, there's no nits that are trying to get into this game or that have any chance, right, Ryan? These are action players.
Right, exactly. These are fun people that the fans will want to see, chat pros will want to see. Yes, 100%. We're not inviting boring people.
Any chance we get Rampage or no?
I don't think so.
But you say you don't think so. This means you already talked about it.
No, he thought about it yesterday, but he decided not to. But we have 3 other people that are pending, and as soon as we get a confirmation, which I just looked if we did or not yet.
So that's where you're checking your phone.
We will announce that hopefully late tonight. If not, when everyone wakes up tomorrow morning. There will be a game.
It's just a question of if the minimum. Look, the game is the same. The blinds are the same.
Yeah.
It's just a question of is the minimum buy-in 500K or $1 million.
Right.
That's
exactly.
the only. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have we had an announcement of the lineup for Thursday yet?
I can do that. Thursday it is. We got Keating. We got Texas Mike. We got Peter. We have Steve. Steve's not in tomorrow, but he's in Thursday.
Okay.
Stanley Tang is 5. Mario's played a few times recently.
Mario.
From San Francisco. He's 6. And then Jack is 7, assuming that Jack is, cool and ready to go on Thursday. So that's the tentative 7.
It's a pretty good 7.
And if we lose somebody, then we'll find someone else.
It's a very good 7.
Maybe Ralbos goes in or somebody else. We'll see.
Is it possible that one of these games goes very late at night? Does it have the right ingredients to be
especially definitely Thursday, because that's the last game of the week, right? I mean, any game does. Last night could have too. You know,
but it's nice when they know they don't have to play the next day.
When someone busts and then second person busts and then it's just like it's going to die down, right? That's what yesterday could have been if people didn't bust out. But yeah, Thursday could be for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's very exciting. Nice to talk to you.
Thanks.
I know how hard you've been working.
Thank
It's
you.
just.
I'll get right back up there so I can try to confirm a lineup. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's give them the last 9 minutes of Q&A.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, chat pros, give us your questions. We'll give you whatever answers we can.
Jimmy Bluffett wants to know about the Triton poker table contest. We didn't know that you can't see who hits the like, right? When you hit it on a video?
Oh, yeah, no, you can't. I honestly,
I didn't know that. I was like, that's a sick way to get likes. But
yeah,
it wasn't,
exactly. I thought you were just being sarcastic. Were you, or no?
When?
Did you think that? I don't know.
What do you mean?
When you said like, oh, if you hit the like button, like, blah, blah, blah. Like I used to say.
That's what I was told.
I used to say if you hit the like button, your mom will give you an ice cream or something. I didn't really think their mom was going to give them an ice cream. It just.
Oh, so
I thought you were
that
just
on
kidding.
Me? No, anything with promos, I just do what I'm told.
Okay.
But I do know that a Triton poker table is being given away randomly for each greater than $1 million pot last night, and the rest of the way, I believe.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's quite a giveaway.
That's quite a giveaway.
Those tables look cool too.
Nils Friedrich says, can you prevent Peter from leaving the table so frequently?
No.
We talked about this some. No, these guys they do what they want, as they should.
They do what they want, and especially Peter. Of all the players playing in that game, he is, what he wants is what he gets. If he wants to go sit down for a couple hours, he's going to do that. There's nothing, no one can change what Peter's going to do.
Okay, we will provide a list of the people that won poker tables at some point. I think we owe them that.
Of course, yeah.
Two people were selected. I forgot their names. One was Santos, and the other one was, I think, Ryan Doyle. I don't know the other winners, but sure, that should be published. I agree with that.
Was Peter scared of Keating? That's an interesting question.
I don't know.
He'll never admit he was.
He showed up to play with them, and he plays with them all the time. I'm going to take no on that.
Well, no. But I mean, look, let's redefine scared as he's not scared of in trepidation of Alan Keating, but does he want to play less hands when he's already up? But Charlie nailed it on the head. Yeah.
It's not about Keating. It's about he's up. He wants to enjoy the feeling of being up.
Yeah.
And
like every other poker player.
Yeah, something that jeopardizes that is perhaps something he wants to avoid. So he wants to look for the slam dunk situations at that point.
I found a good question from the chat for All In or Fold. It's from Felix Gonzalez. Can Dr. P get a Diet Coke now? Raver, All In or Fold?
I fold. The rules are the rules, and no Diet Coke. He got fifth, right?
He got fifth. We paid top 4 in the satellite.
Yeah.
Charlie, what are your thoughts on this? So he battled all day. He had 3 big blinds left. He was the big blind, but there's also a big blind ante. So 2 of his 3 big blinds were out there, and he had 1 big blind left, and he folded. And then the next hand he had to get that big blind in. He got fifth. He was the bubble boy. So we paid 4. He tried to get a Diet Coke out of that fridge, and Louis told him no. Which
for players only.
Oh my! I didn't see this. Wow, that's wild.
Oh, okay. So
the rules are the rules.
Rules are the rules. So you're full, Raver.
Yeah.
What about you?
What is the problem?
Can he get his Diet Coke now?
No. He has to pay for it like everyone else.
So you're all in on that?
He can have the Diet Coke.
I'm all in on making him pay for the Diet Coke.
I love Dr. P. Mm-hmm. He's a great dude, but I'm with you.
And why is this about? Why doesn't it Dr. Pepper?
Like because he wanted a Diet Coke. I don't know.
I mean, but his name is Dr. P.
You're right about that, but he is a great dude, and like everyone loves him. All right. But I'm with you. I'm fold.
Yeah.
Brandon says, how can you have rules for Lingren having to play 8 hours, but you can't tell people they can't leave?
Well, his entry was conditional, and he won that in the 25K satellite.
I believe he signed
rules are rules.
So the rule, as I said, yes, the rules are rules.
That's what the chat is with us on fold.
So you have to go by the rules. No, but as a part of playing that, because look, here's the thing. in that satellite, they're playing for $1 million to enter this game. Now, nothing, in theory, actually, nothing would have been preventing the person who wins the $1 million to just saying, F it, I don't want to play in the game.
Oh my God, Dr. P's in the chat.
Dr. P's in the chat. He says, thanks for the honorable mention. What's up, Dr. P?
What's up, Dr. P? You have to pay for your Diet Coke like everyone else, Dr. P.
Oh my God.
Rules are the rules. But no, so as a part of that tournament, he had to agree that they had to play 8 hours. I mean, that would have been a disaster for us if the winner of that satellite would have just not played.
Okay, yes. Tyler P, all in or fold. Will Airball yell at Magic to deal the cards? This is fun. I say all in. He will yell at him.
Sure. Yeah,
I like that. And hey, let's have a parlay here. Will he yell at a waitress to get a coffee or to get something when he's upset?
I'm fold on that.
I'm all in on that.
What are you on yelling at Magic?
I'm all in on that.
He'll
too.
yell at Magic because he loves him.
Yeah. Right. It's the way he shows his love.
All right. So
yeah, Zach says, where are the old school heavy hitters like Double M, Blank Check Ben, and Hands? I mean, I feel like we're coming across as like apologizing for not having people on who people want to see, and I get that, but just the reality of poker is that people come in and out. I mean,
it is.
You know, someone. Yeah. You know, you look around at whatever game you want to play. A 5-10 game somewhere. The number of people who are still there playing it 5 years later is going to be a small number, and it's going to be even smaller as the stakes ascend, just because of the difficulty of continuing to gamble for that amount of money.
Other than Big John. Big John.
Yes.
He's the only one. He was here on day one, and he's still here every single week.
Yeah.
Other than Big John.
Francisco probably, right?
Oh, and Francisco.
Yeah.
Sure. But you're right. They all come and go. And
yeah.
they all, especially
I get people
these guys.
missing some of these guys who have departed, but that's just
Look,
reality.
these guys have real lives. When you get to that level of poker, essentially, look at the $1 million game. Did any of them, other than Eric, make their money from poker? No. Right. No, they have lives. They're venture capitalists, or they're
Peter
doing things.
Grinded it up.
Oh, you think Peter grinded it up?
Yeah, I think he was in the 5-5 for a few years.
I saw him from the 5-5. Yeah.
And I think that's how he got that money.
Good for him. Well, that is a rare story. You know, that when you get to a certain level of stakes, you know, where you're playing and no one made it there from playing poker anymore, right? You go to 5-10. If you win at 5-10, you can move on to 10-20. You win at 10-20, you can start playing 25-50. But once you get beyond about there, it stops being.
You can say before that.
Even before that,
even
right?
Playing 10-20.
Right. That's kind of just the relative ceiling for most people, and then you get beyond it, and you kind of ascend to this place where no one has made their money from poker. They're all successful in other parts of their lives and enjoy playing poker.
2 minutes left. Final words.
I'm hype. I am hype, as always. It's going to be a great show. 500K, 200K, $1 million, I don't care. I just want to see some battles. Let's go get it. Thank you for coming to this show tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, we'll cut it there. Thanks, everybody. Again, we will be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific, for the $1 million game. Is there a pregame show tomorrow?
No.
There's not?
No,
okay.
no. We are going to be playing All In or Fold here.
We should.
In private, but it won't.
Okay.
We'll let you know how it goes.
So next thing you'll see from us is 4 p.m. tomorrow for day 2 of the $1 million game with Raver and Billy DGAF. I'm Charlie Wilmoth. Thanks so much for tuning in.